It's your boy Beats by Ash back at it again with another banger. And today we're bringing you guys another episode of the Table One podcast just in time for OP-04 Kingdoms of Intrigue. And today I'm joined by a special guest, my friend Michael. I know who you are. Some of you guys may already know who he is. Would you please introduce yourself for those who do not know who you are?
Yeah, so my name is Michael, but I also go by Loading, which is my YouTube channel. It's Loading TCG, where I cover a lot of commentary of my local gameplay for the One Piece trading card game. Sometimes I do deck techs. It's kind of just a big experiment for me to get better at, YouTube and whatnot. So I might throw in a random video here and there.
For sure. Definitely make sure to go check him out, subscribe, like all his videos, and turn post notifications on. Real recognizes real, and I don't put just anybody on. But what I would like to ask is, could you give us a general background of your history with trading card games in general, and as well like with the One Piece card game?
Yeah, dude. So, I've been in TCGs since I was like 9 years old. Pokemon, I remember I got addicted to cardboard crack early, and I've just been playing ever since then, off and on a lot of games. I played Magic competitively for a little bit. And took a little break in college, but I had to, and that's whatever. But I'm back in it now, and I was playing Digimon, and then I knew One Piece was coming out, and I didn't think the art in the game looked good, so I was like, I don't know if I'll try it out, but we'll see. And then the super pre-release, dude, I went and played the super pre-release because I saw how expensive Luffy's were, and I just fell in love with the game. And I was eating my own words that weekend. I was like, oh, dude, this game's actually sick.
So before you got into One Piece, were you like still actively like playing Magic, or did you just take a break in general from card games?
So I took a break, and then during COVID, the Digimon trading card game came out, and me and my roommate at the time, we started playing that. It felt very similar to Duel Masters, which was our favorite game. So we went really hard into Digimon, and I was playing that pretty competitively up until One Piece came out.
So you used to like travel to events, like do you have like any tops in any games or anything like that?
Yeah, so the first in-person Digimon tournament was in Tampa TCG Con. I got fourth there, and then I got 39th in one of the it was like a Digimon Fest, Did okay in some of the regionals that I got to play in, but there wasn't as much for the Digimon as there are One Piece because we were coming out of COVID, still trying to figure out how we were going to do in-person tournaments, so we didn't get as many.
Okay. When did the Digimon TCG come out? Because I remember like when people started playing that, but I don't actually know like when that actually released.
So it was released in Japan in 2022, and then it was, or not 2022, 2020, and it had a super pre-release kind of in November of 2020, and then its official release in the States was 2021, like January.
Okay, cool. So do you have like any attachment to like the One Piece anime, or did you just get into it like you said because of like you're competitive and you saw that there was like an opportunity to like win the Luffy and stuff?
So yeah, that's what initially drew me in, and then I started playing the game. And I'm a huge like anime manga fan, obviously, more so manga. And I always wanted to read One Piece, so I started seeing the characters and stuff like that, and I was like, I should read this before it gets spoiled. So now I actually really like the franchise, and it's a terrific manga. Like, people should definitely check it out if they're fans of the game.
Okay, cool. Is that a Blue Exorcist manga behind you?
Yeah, it is.
I might have to like run over there real quick and you just borrow that, man. You know, that's one of my
Yeah,
favorites.
dude, Blue Exorcist was so strong. I haven't caught up. I'm pretty far behind, but like the first 10 volumes were pretty fire.
Okay, yeah. I'm just a big fan of like shonen like animes in general like that. I'm pretty sure. I mean, I used to read that in the Shonen Jump. That's how I first figured out about that. But I haven't really read the manga outside of like the OG Shonen Jump volumes where you used to get like the card. But then I got like really into like the animation, like the dubbed. I'm a dub watcher. Show some
That's
hate.
Dude, I listen, man. I watched dub. Like the story with One Piece, me and my wife were watching dub. And we watched all the dub on Netflix. And then she would always fall asleep earlier than me because I'm a night owl. She has like a 9 to 5 job. I work at a card shop. So we caught up to the dub and we were watching sub, and like she would fall asleep and I would have to explain what was going on. And I was just like, no, I'm gonna read the rest of this. So I just started reading and just blew through it.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you because I remember back in the day whenever I was first introduced to One Piece, which was like from Cartoon Network essentially. That was like my history with it, and then I had watched like just like you were saying on Netflix, like some of the dubbed, and I started remembering like key pieces from when it would be on Cartoon Network, and I just realized very quickly that the fight scenes are very dragged out, and it's almost like, especially when you're watching on a streaming service where it doesn't automatically like skip the like the intro and the outro and like the recap and stuff. It takes so long to do that, so I kind of just got disinterested in the anime in general. But so many people were like, "Dude, this is the best thing ever. This is amazing." And I mean, I really like Naruto and other like shonen animes like that, but I didn't really get past the Arlong arc until I was introduced to the game. So previously, I used to play Yu-Gi-Oh competitively for like 10 years. As you can see, I've got kind of some maps on the wall. Like I have like my office rigged out with basically like all of the tops that I have like in the game. And going into the release of the One Piece card game, Yu-Gi-Oh just got to a point where it really isn't the same game. And at the same time, they started doing this system where basically booster packs were released so rapidly that the amount of like money you had to spend to keep up with the card game just got to a really bad point. Because what I will say about Yu-Gi-Oh is it's a very competitively driven game, and you got a lot of like cult people who are staying around because I would consider it the most complicated card game in my opinion. Magic is definitely up there if you're playing some formats. Obviously you're playing some of the lower power level ones. I think it's a lot more simple, but in general, Yu-Gi-Oh is very convoluted to the point where I would say that at this point in what I would consider the modern Yu-Gi-Oh era, there's no more etiquette in the game. And what I mean by that is 1 out of 4 to 5 people that you would go against is a person who is playing a deck that actually just has no merit in actually like winning this event. But the only reason they're able to farm wins is because they're basically trying to rule shark the other person, because there's so many different like intricacies to the game to where like I can be like, okay, well, you didn't announce this or you didn't put this in this position. And that really like started driving me away from the game, on top of the fact that with the power creep becoming more fast because of the vast amount of sets, we got to a point where I feel like after COVID, it was very difficult to. There's not as many people in general in card games, at least in my area, that are vendors, right? And so the biggest reason why I thought about joining the One Piece TCG is because if I wanted to get the cards to go to a competitive event, which was my main merit for playing the game, is to order them through TCG. And I personally feel that after the eBay takeover, that TCG players started being a lot less consistent. I had like, I would say a good period of like 6 to 7 years from like 2013 when I was 12 or 13 years old up until like I took a break from the game, and maybe when I was like 16, 17, where I never had an issue with the package and the packages came timely. So when there's no vendors because COVID, just destroyed that market, I have to order all of these cards. And, I just recently had like a big old school Yu-Gi-Oh order where some of the cards took over a month to get in. And so if I have to wait a month to get certain cards for a deck because I'm preparing to go to an event, by the time I actually get those in, if you can't purchase them in person, there's a good chance there's a new product being released to where I'm not even going to get like competitive like value, like in terms of like a couple months out of my cards before I need to buy new cards. And that's something that really interested me in the One Piece TCG, with how slow the sets actually are introduced, because you get a lot of value in terms of like longevity for your cards, not just because it's all one format and how slow it is, but just like in the beginning, it feels like we just blew through OP-03. It felt like no time at all. But set one was like a 4-month deal, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was, which was nice. That one was a lot of fun, so I didn't really mind that.
Yeah. So I actually joined, I guess, after the super pre-release was completely over, where we were already in set one, and my friends were like, "Okay, you need to start making videos on this because I had always done Yu-Gi-Oh content, and it just got so like competitive and like all those reasons I told you. That I was like, okay, I'll try this out. And like I said, I didn't have very much experience with the anime. I only started watching the anime after I played the game, and I think a lot of people fit into this category of they joined the game because they came from another competitive TCG that was on the downfall, and they see how easy it is to get in because let's be honest, the top 3 TCGs outside of Pokemon have a relatively high barrier to entry, whereas this game, low barrier to entry. If you want to be competitive at the highest level, I would argue that you realistically need to own every relevant card in the metagame. And when I started out in set one, I purchased every single deck in the game for about $300 total. On top of the fact that you can actually get some money back, by like selling the prize cards in the beginning, whether that was just tournament packs that you flip for $40, or that be the movie pack was really profitable for me because we would get those every single week at our locals, and in the beginning I played 2 to 3 times a week, and some places didn't have access to that. So I mean, realistically, up until recently, when we got the introduction of Sanji in this new set that allows you to swap it out for Sunicune, which I'm a big fan of them doing that because it did kind of gatekeep people behind purchasing this vanilla for $10. That would make it to where I wasn't throwing away money because, like you said, cardboard crack, at a certain point, it's kind of just a money pit. And most people who want to be competitive and are actively traveling are also people who are not depending on the prize money in whatever game that is, because that's just not a consistent income. And if you were doing that, you're probably just a basement dweller and a degenerate, because you could probably be making so much more money doing anything else if you're actually devoting that much time to be like a high level person. So it's kind of a nice change to be able to like just enter a locals, and then maybe I can like sell something that's like 15 or $20, and that just paid for 3 tournaments. And now I'm not just putting money down this endless pit, right?
Right, and that's definitely with like Bandai TCGs is their box ratios, like the hits, is so much more generous than like Magic or any other card game. Because I would argue that if you buy 4 boxes for One Piece, which is roughly $400, that might sound high to people, but TCG people are like, oh, that's a drop in the hat. You can build like 3 to 4 decks usually, like they give you so much.
I would completely
So
agree.
yeah, and also like you get 2 hits, and like all the hits are usually alter arts. So if you play at low rarity, like you're eating good. Just sell those, and then you're like, okay, I recouped, you know, some of my money. So I ended up spending like 200 to 150 every 3 months. Like, okay, that's awesome.
For sure. At one point I was actually like tallying up the like amount of like money that I would make from sales. And I would argue that until like recently, I would kind of consider like right now more of like a bear market. But until like this point, maybe like going into set three, the volatility of people purchasing, it was just so high. You had so many people who were willing to purchase for collector value and who had FOMO that you could easily get like deals to go through. And I would have months where I honestly wasn't even trying to be a big vendor, but just because I played the game a lot, I won a lot of tournaments, I would sell like $2,000 a month. And that's pretty insane compared to other games where I think depending on what community you live in, there's a quite a bit more amount of people who are trying to sell rather than buy. And that's just such a big nice factor of being a part of this TCG community than other previous top TCGs. And let's go ahead and go a little bit forward here. I know we most recently saw each other at the OP-04 pre-release. You kind of want to give like a background of your competitive merits in the game so far?
Yeah, so I mean, I've been trying to grind for my invite, wrecking my brain for that. The best I've done so far was a PPG regional in OP2. I got 25th place playing Kinemon. That was actually wild, dude. I had 6 mirror matches that day and only lost 1. So, and I remember there was a case tournament at one of the local shops in Tulsa, and I played you, and you beat me, and you're like, oh, if you would have had the 8-drop kid in Kinemon, like, the 8-drop kid, like, I couldn't have done nothing. And I was like, okay, so I fooled around with that, and then, yeah, dude, the mirror match, people just did not know what to do. And then especially with that mirror match, people were like, oh, I want to go second, so I can drop Okiku turn 1, which really, you wanted to go first because you wanted to curve out and play the 4-drop Yamato on turn 2, and then you wanted to play Odin on your 7-drop. You wanted to just curve out with Kinemon, and that's what I found out, like, the week before that tournament. So I lost a lot of dice rolls, and people like, you go first. I was like, awesome, cool. But other than that, I mean, won a couple of local tournaments, nothing, no invites yet, no serial Luffy's, but hey, I'm still on the grind.
For sure, that's what we'd like to hear. Hey, you heard it here first on Beats by Ash's channel. Beats by Ash was a contributing factor to loading TCG's first top in the game. Now, was that an online or offline regional?
It was an online regional. Yeah. I really hate webcam tournaments. But it is what it is. One Piece, we have been getting a lot of in-person regionals, and there have been a couple around us. I think we've had 2 in Texas, 1 in-state in Tulsa. So that's a good sign. That's awesome. I just hope that we get more. Maybe like a Kansas one, or shoot, even Arkansas. I know there's got to be like at least 3 people that play this game in Arkansas, right?
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And one thing I will say is I'm the first retired online One Piece player. I made a short talking about how I started off 3-0 in this regional, and I decided I just no longer enjoy playing online. So I'm just going to screw the people over that I beat and just drop. And there's a lot of a lot of salty liberals who are just like, you're ruining people's records. Oh my gosh. And I'm like, all right, we'll restart the channel. So we're filtering out those boys, well, we're going up. Only real ones on the channel, man. I just do not think it's fun. And, anyone who knows anything about me is I do not give a fuck what other people think. And I'm going to be, as real as possible. Obviously, I didn't do that just because I was thinking, oh my God, I could just fuck over 3 people. Ha 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 ha. It was like, I genuinely just did not enjoy playing online. There's just several merits for that. As a competitive person, I just do not think that in other previous TCGs that anyone considers online events nearly as much as an acolyte as an in person. I'm not trying to like throw shade at you for topping that, but just in general, I really would prefer to play in events that have a top cut, and we can get into that later on, but also the cheating, me having to watch what I'm doing and what the other guy's doing, and there's just so many people who like just get caught. It honestly reminds me so much of what I've heard about the original 2000s years of Magic, which I'm only 22, so I obviously was not around in that era, but from what I've heard is in the beginning stages around the early 2000s, cheating basically was not that frowned upon. Like, you could call a judge, and so most of the judges weren't willing to do anything or didn't know how to handle the situation, and a lot of people just consider like, oh yeah, it's just part of the game and stuff like that. And it just feels like that because you see stuff all the time about people just being bashed on Twitter. I know there was a guy who got caught for cheating, and then he ended up being banned, created a new ID, and then got caught for cheating again with that new ID, and somehow the guy got a lifetime ban reverted to a 4-month ban, which until we just got this new information about nationals, made it to where the guy would be unbanned before nationals, and so his invite would still be valid to that event from a time where no one can say that he wasn't cheating. I mean, if you're willing to go out of the way to create a second account after you've already been blasted and your reputation has been sent to the ground, like, you were probably cheating the whole time, you know? And I will say that in this game, you can only be so competitive. And some people will, like, you know, try to argue with me and be like, oh my God, there's such a high ceiling in this game. And it's like, yeah, there's such a high ceiling. You know, my opponent, he just went big mom, okay, suck a dick, you lose, you know? It's like, okay, it's why anybody, you know, this might be kind of like a bad way to look at it for some people, but if I see someone who is topping, you know, 3 or 4 events in a row within the top 8 or top 16 respectively, I honestly just, I don't put it past that person that they were either cheating, a rule shark, or generally just lowering the fun level for every person that they played against, because you can only be so consistent in this game, especially if you're doing events that are online and events that have no top cut, because it's like, okay, you realistically can only lose one game in a best of 1 Swiss, since we're not best 2 out of 3. And I would argue that if you're like extremely competitive, like for me, I would say I've played in about, I think 8 big events, and I've never gone worse than X3 before. And I would say if you're like a high level person, that you're probably gonna average around going at least X3. I would say if you make a correct meta call, then you're probably gonna have like a 60% chance to go X2. And then I would say there's like a 25 to 30% chance each time that you're gonna go X1, just because the variance is relatively high. And that's why, like, if you have like a lot of tops, like in back-to-back events, and I don't personally know you, I would assume you fall into one of those 3 categories.
Yeah, I'd say that's fair. And like the webcam thing, I get it's a great model if you want to make money as like Bandai or the TOs, but it's I think they're gonna have to move away from it if they want the integrity of their game to be intact. Because like you said, it's like, you know, if all your tops are like on webcam, that's sus as fuck. Like, you know, why, you know, if you're playing in a bunch of in-person tournaments too and you can't top there, like, why is it webcam that's different? And you know, I'm not saying that that's for everybody who does that, but like, it's just like, I mean, come on, dude. You have 8 tops on webcam and like 1 in person. I just get suspicious of you, and I don't. Yeah, and I don't think highly of people, you know, who do that, because like you said, at the end of the day, it's like if you're gonna cheat at a game, cheat at one that's best of 1, you know, for sure, because all you have to do is win that 1 match, you know. I think that's a problem. Like, One Piece could be one of the best like competitive card games. It's just like we're halfway there.
I 100% agree. And one last thing I'll add to that before we move on is that also you got to think about what kind of deck the person is bringing. You know, this is another indicator for me. As a person who has 10 years of card game experience, you know, there are a lot of indicators that stand out to me to where this guy could be kind of sus. And one of them being that if you're topping an event with, let's say, a tier 3 strategy that you have no merit of being in the top 8, like if you're Magellan, you know, and you're top 8ing in multiple webcams, it's like, bro, you're sus as fuck. Like, if you, like, get 1, like, one thing I'll say about the One Piece TCG is no matter what deck you're playing, because the consistency is relatively low compared to others, and as well because the variance is higher than other TCGs, you could easily just luck out one time with any tier 3 deck. You could luck out right now with a OG purple Kaido and top, and I'll be like, okay, that's very possible. But if you do that at multiple events, it's like, okay, something is going wrong here, right? And, you know, and another thing to add to that is with these restrictions of, you know, the Whitebeard cards going into set 3 only for the USA, you know, I just think that there are a lot of sus factors on that behalf, being that the first online event, I think there was like 10 people in the top cut, not even really a top cut because it's online, but there's 10 people in the standings who are playing Whitebeard. And put it like this simply: if I'm playing Whitebeard and I draw my 9-cost Newgate on curve every single game, and I also have access to my 4-cost Marco and my 1 of Radical Beam every single game, the limitations do not really affect you. And I think one of the most like viable ways to cheat, which I'm not advocating for this, is stacking. We've seen in I think it was a German regional in the finals where this was on stream, and both of the people in the finals were caught cheating within the same 3-second interval because one guy had his camera look like it was 2D, so he did a fake cut on his deck. And the other guy also looked at his own life cards in that same interval. And also, just want to point out, neither of those people were caught until after the stream was over. None of the judges saw that. But that just indicates to you that if I was able to, do like a pile shuffle and I put all of my Whitebeard cards equally spaced throughout the deck, since they all fit into the similar roles, like you have like maybe 15 2Ks, you maybe have like, all at the time, all 4 boats, all this stuff. You do a pile shuffle, and it's like even if the guy just does like says half cut, then you're basically guaranteed to open 1 boat, entire game. And that's what really indicated to me that some people were potentially being sus upon these restrictions, because it's very easy, if you have experience noticing these things, to be able to almost guarantee you're going to see these key cards that are limited just about every game. And that's something where it's really hard to call that person out on cheating in a webcam sense, because the judge can, like, if he's in there, he can tell you to fan out your deck, but there's nothing to really prove that, because there's no way to observe what he was doing in that time and stuff like that. And so I just wanted to mention that because I remember that first online event after the restrictions, so many people topped with Whitebeard. Then we had the first in-person event and drastically less people topped. I'm like, okay, 2 and 2 together. And then all these people who were playing non-searchable one-of cards in their deck. And it's like, bro, I understand, like, you could have gotten lucky, but since you're like, a person who's having multiple tops and stuff, and it's like, that's just really sus. Like, that doesn't, if you were a high level player and you're getting this many tops, you should know more about deck building theory, and you're not going to play 15 different non-searchable one-ups. That is just not good deck building practices.
Toolbox strategies are cool. They rarely work, and competitive players know that. And if you look at if you look at a top 8 deck list, and you might see like a guy who's running a bunch of one-ofs, I guarantee you that's one of his first few tops.
Yeah, for sure. And if he has more tops, it's definitely something that's like, okay, I'm not saying he did cheat, but if he did, I wouldn't be surprised, right? That's where, like, I'm not accusing anyone, but if someone is showing, several of these signals over a period of time, it definitely is just something for me personally. I'm going to watch out for that, right? But enough talking about me ranting. I want to move on to recently when we saw each other at the OP-04 pre-release. How many pre-releases have you played in?
5 for this set. Tonight I've got another one, so this will be my 6th pre-release for Kingdom of Intrigue tonight.
What the fuck? You're just a pre-release grinder, my guy. I mean, I've only played in 2, but I just wanted to get your first initial thoughts on how you would rank this pre-release compared to other previous ones that we have had, and maybe like what you liked about it and what you disliked and what you would like to see change.
So for this pre-release in particular, I feel like there's 2 leaders. There's always 2 leaders in sealed, and one of them is Kid, and the other one is just, depends. I think Blue Crocodile has a lot of legs in the sealed because you have those Baroque work packages. Like the 8-drop Crocodile, like people would pull him, and I'm like, oh, are you running the Blue Croc leader? And they're like, no, why would I? I was like, because recovering 1 life against Kid, like that's, no pun intended, but that's life or death. Like I played so much Kid, like that's my favorite leader. Like if I get you down to 1 life, like that's game. You can't handle 2 12k swings, and if you can, you're not going to be able to do that next turn. And I'll just try to drop. I'll save my blockers until then to just guard it. But with this sealed, I found out Like, if you do not open the right cards, your deck is dog shit. Like, usually if you open an SR, you're like, okay, I'm sitting pretty, but you can open Sugar, you can open Sanji, just to name a few. And since they're not like bombs, they're low level stats, like, you just get blown out. Like, if someone drops a 10 drop Dofi on you, that sucks. If you don't open a Red Rock, like, say goodbye to one of your vanillas, and they just, they're gonna get so much tempo off of that. So it's not my favorite sealed for One Piece. I probably would say I really liked 3 because if you open a Big Mom, you could play Katakuri. So there was just a higher level of variance with that because it wasn't just like a bomb you could play in every deck. Like 10 drop Kaido and 10 drop Dofi where you can play, and also like Daddy Masterson. I feel like if you pull 2 Daddy Mastersons, like you're gonna get a Luffy. Like, that card's just insane and sealed.
Yeah, and that one other guy that does the exact same thing but better, the rare, the Don
Oh,
Quixote
yeah,
Pirates guy.
Diamante. I had one last night and sealed, and, like, I just kept 2 Dawn open. I was like, it's because, like, my curve, I didn't have any bombs, so, like, my highest drop was 6. So I would just, like, always make sure I was basically, like, playing my curve a turn behind, just because I wanted to keep him, like, unrested. Like, a 7k swing each turn that they can't swing into, yeah, a tempo is disgusting. So there's definitely the variance in this field is high. So I don't like it as much. And it's really hard to be enthusiastic about sealed a lot when it's like, what is this best sealed card? It's Eustace Captain Kid Leader. Like, I definitely think they need to change the sealed rules. Like, I know we're getting a sealed tournament. We're getting the one they have in
Set 5,
the leader
yeah.
they have
Set
in
5, we get the all color Luffy that's required by everyone.
yeah. I feel like the sealed rules should change to, and they send the stores a kit and has however many of those Luffys. You hand them out to people and say you can play with the leaders that you open in the set, or this is your default leader. Just because, as much as I love Eustace Captain Kid as a leader, it's time to see him go from sealed. It's just too cracked.
I completely agree. That adds one of the biggest problems that I have with sealed. Number one, I wanted to mention, I think in Japan, the rules are that you get the all color Luffy and you aren't able to play any of the other leaders in the pack. I'm not sure on that, but I know for a fact you get the all color Luffy, but they haven't been doing sealed until I think this might have been their first sealed. Like before that, they have not been doing pre-releases, but I'm pretty sure that's how it works because why else would they have that card? It literally says this card can only be used in these events, and that's something that I argued for since the beginning of the first sealed. And to build off of your point, there are 2 key problems that I noticed with this set. Number one, the power level is relatively low in terms of commons and uncommons, throughout the set. If we were on a Magic draft scale, this would be not a popper draft. Like you were saying about those super rares and, those rares sometimes, depending on what it is. I know you also mentioned Croc. I would argue, like in my experience, obviously you played more than me, but because the overall card quality is so low and most of the vanillas you can play are understated, I saw myself wanting to play Roronoa Zoro more so than Kid, just because I tried Kid and then I realized, okay, since you're not actually getting to draft from a large enough pool, you're basically just going to have a guaranteed set amount, 15 to 20 cards that are 1k away from attacking, where you need to invest multiple resources. And since everybody has those in your deck, I just feel like it's way worthwhile to play Zoro, because then it turns all of these mediocre cards that everyone's playing into serviceable playables, and especially good when the other person is not playing Zoro, because then you have serviceable playables and this guy has mediocre cards. While the Kid leader is extremely broken, I just found that one of the reasons I'm not okay with everyone using kid is it creates a large disparity for the win rate of the person going second over the person going first, because you usually have a much higher win rate going second than you do going first. So when you're kid versus kid, I could just straight up lose out of the bat from them going second. And on top of that, how you were talking about how like there's a disparity between variants in these drafts, the key word of the weekend was leader locked. I play a guy. What does that do? He's leader locked. I can't use the ability, and I talked about some of my feelings towards that, about how this format and this system doesn't allow us to experience a lot of the mechanics that are really supposed to be what this sealed is about, is introducing us to the new mechanics of the set and giving us a taste of what these cards add to the card pool, which this format does not, because there's so many strategies that, because they're leader locked, they have no effect on the game since everyone is using kid. And I'm not sure if the Luffy leader allows you to use cards that say they're leader locked and use the effect, but I would be completely fine with that. Or in general, I would be down for a pack draft where we pick one card and pass the other person, because one of the biggest things in terms of disparity I noticed in this set was the removal, because everyone's characters are low to maybe serviceable in general. One of the most broken cards, I think it's probably just the most game-breaking card, is Weaklings Do Not Deserve to Die, aka the longest worded card in the game. That card is just a +2 in terms of card advantage in a format where you have to work very, very hard to get a +1. Anytime I had that or my opponent had that, it straight up just ended the game. And in the most recent draft, I had 3 of those in my sealed pool and 1 red rock. And you would think that's an automatic win, but I didn't see that card, and my opponent, he saw his one, and that ended the game. Pretty much every table I looked over at, that's exactly what happened. Whoever saw that card won the game.
Yeah. And like it depends. Like that card is, yeah, because if they have a blocker and they swing with like, one of their 6 8K vanillas, and you're just like, okay, I'm gonna rest that blocker. I'm gonna kill that bomb that you have on, then I'm gonna swing my leader into your blocker, and you now like, look, I just got rid of 2 bodies for like 5 Dawn. Yeah, that tempo is just sick. Also, and to go back to what you're saying about the Luffy leader, so the ruling on that is you can only play it in sealed. It is every color, and it is also considered every type. So it is meant to experience the other cards. And like you were saying, leader locked is really bad for sealed, just because, I would say 40 to maybe even like 50% of your deck is just like, it's vanilla. It's like, oh, this guy has a 4/5 1K counter. He has text, but it's irrelevant. So, but I'm going to run it because he has a decent stat line in this. And yeah, and like other games where it's like Magic, they build for sealed. Like they build for draft. They design their sets to be contained in there. And a lot of Japanese card games don't do that. They just release a set. They don't have pre-release. It's not a practice that they implement with their card games over there. So when they try to do that over here with like even like Digimon, like if you think like if anyone's like, man, One Piece sealed is bad, go play Digimon sealed, dude. That will wreck your brain. You're like, oh man, this is dog shit. It's terrible. Cause it's really bad. I mean, it's rainbow, so you can like digivolve onto stuff, but there's a lot of things like, oh, if you have an Agumon under this, it's like, oh, there's no Agumons in this set. It's because it's very name specific, and sometimes it will have them in the set, but it's like, say you pulled like the Seraphimon or whatever line, right? And you pulled one of each. You only pulled one of each. Like, there's no consistency in that. You're not gonna build your stack with that, and you just, yeah. They've had to change a lot of rules just to make sealed playable for that game.
Yeah, for sure. And I also feel like if the different rule changes were implemented, I think that the packs are set up very well to make for a semi-consistently sealed format outside of the pre-release. And I think one of the biggest things that's holding this back, outside of all the other factors we mentioned, is I just don't think that you're getting to open enough packs. I would like to compare this to, Magic Sealed, where obviously a Magic Draft is way more skill intensive than Magic Sealed. But in general, you get enough cards in Magic Sealed in order to justify 4 to 5 different deck combinations. Whereas in this, it's like, okay, what 10 to 12 cards am I not playing? And if you pull a leader in your pack, there are some instances where, let's say you get 3 leader packs out of your 6. Now, it's not that I'm not playing 12 or 10 cards, I'm not playing 7. And that just feels really bad for the overall, thought-provoking aspect of the game. That's why I'm so surprised to hear the Digimon analogy, because obviously I have no experience with that game, but I already understand how that can be very irritating. And I'm already very irritated with this sealed format in terms of being able to actually enjoy the mechanics, in terms of actually being able to create a competitive or semi-competitive tournament. Obviously, I don't care about the prizing. The prizing isn't even that good, and I would prefer if it's not, because I just want to have an incentive of being able to, think about these combinations that would not normally be available in a normal format, right? And it's the draft is really doing nothing for that. It's just a way for them to sell you the product at a fear of missing out touch point, where if I don't get these cards now, well, then I won't be able to purchase the cards for another 2 weeks, or I want to get these alt arts for the first tournament. For example, we had the sealed on Friday, Sunday in my area, and then we had a locals on Tuesday where you could utilize the new cards. Well, you can't actually purchase boxes, so pretty much your only incentive to go to the pre-release, because it's missing all of those merits we just discussed, is to access the cards and try to get cards from other people because you're allowed to buy boxes. And that's really just what it seems like this is, a way for them to sell you boxes at a touch point of fearing missing out.
Yeah, and also if you're cracking leaders and alts and you're selling them during pre-release, dude, you're making 50 to 40 more percentage, just because there's people who they get one sealed, and maybe their store sells them 6 packs, so they don't get they don't get jacked, dude. So they're just they've got that FOMO, and they're like, yeah, I'll buy that miss all Sunday at $60, and you just sold a $20 alt for 40 extra dollars, and you feel you're sitting pretty, dude. You're like, oh, that just paid for 2 sealeds, that's massive. And then that Friday when the set comes out, and you're like, oh wow, it's listed $20 low. So there's also that game of just the pre-release money, because you can make a lot of money in pre-release for sure if you open well and just can move that stuff. My advice to people is be patient. Holy crap, dude. Go look at some of the set. I know we're just done with set 3, dude, but some of the prices on that stuff, because we've gotten so many waves of it, it's ridiculous, dude. You can buy an ace leader for $40. I remember when that dude was 119. Yeah, so there's that in sealed. And also another thing is Magic the Gathering, sealed and draft, those are major tournament formats in their game, and it's not in One Piece. Obviously, reasons we've discussed is if there was a Tulsa or OKC regional, and I'd be like, oh man, that's so cool, and then I saw it was sealed, I would really debate if I want to go to that or not, because it's just okay, so everybody's gonna be playing Kid, and it's just I hope I open well. Yeah, there's not a lot of skill in that, and it just does not sound fun. But if there was some kind of, if they did implement the Luffy leader, I would maybe consider that, because it's okay, that could be fun, if I pull good, obviously I'm gonna lose to people who pull better and see better things, but at least it leaves more of a equal playing field, and the deck is more playable.
I completely agree. My argument is that if there was a way to add additional packs, or if we did a drafting style format, I would be completely open to going to an event like that, assuming that we're gonna have that leader that is all types and stuff, because like we were discussing in person, if we were doing a pass a pack around the table in an 8-man pod, it's very possible that you could see certain signals saying, oh, Baroque Works engine is open, now I have justification to play the searcher, I have justification to play these synergies, and it would make for like a lot of like playable strategies that you normally wouldn't be able to use because of their impact on the metagame. And I would say that that adds value to their product. And at the same time, my biggest argument is that I don't think they would need to adjust the structure of these packs very much at all in order to add this like as a functional way to make money for them in the game. Because as it stands currently, we both feel strongly about wanting to play like blue purple croc and play the Baroque work cards, but they're just a generally lower power level in terms of card quality compared to like other top strategies. And if we had a system like I was talking about, you would actually be able to experience those components, those mechanics, and actually be able to do relatively well depending on how your polls went, how the draft or the sealed went,
Yeah. And like there's a lot of strategies that are in sealed that won't even see they won't even see playing competitive. Like the Don Quixote pirates, like imagine if they weren't leader locked. You would have some pretty crazy effects. Like Senor Pink could rest something when he swings and then restand a Dawn. Like you have an Okiku and sealed all of a sudden. And like the Alabasta cards, let's be real. Like people might play with Pell, but every red card you open, you're like, is it Pell or is it a 2K? Or like, I don't even think there's a blocker. You're like, oh, okay, I'm just gonna push these to the side because they're just terrible, you know. But that'd be cool if someone like drafted all the Alabasta cards and won a sealed event just because, like, yeah, no one was picking red, so I just went with it and I found this busted synergy. That would just make for yeah, I think people would enjoy it more. And I think you would see more pre-release attendance with people just actually wanting to play sealed. And like, because I was talking to my buddy tonight, we're going to one place and we're playing in the sealed because they let us pre-order some boxes. So we're getting like 3 boxes. We're like, do we just like get our 6 packs in our boxes and then just go bounce and like play constructed? Like that's something we really debated on, just because like we've played enough of the sealed, because yeah, leader locked stuff is just, it's not fun.
Yeah, there's definitely no repeatability in terms of like the current structure. And I completely agree with what you're saying. I would also add that in the sealed format, like I think that's a good contributing factor to why we're seeing the depreciation of the value of these packs over time. Because let's think about, I think, was it OP-03 where you have the iceberg stuff, or was that OP-02?
That was OP3.
Okay, yeah. So, that's like a big component of the set. I think they took up like several like super rares, and certain like rarities. I'm pretty sure that like, a lot of like the Don Quixote pirate stuff realistically isn't that usable now until we get the searcher in set 5. And that really just appreciates the value of those packs over time because they're just devoting so many slots to below average playables in a deck that, because it is a relatively simplistic game at this standpoint, you have a lot of cards that are going to be completely unusable just because they don't meet the quota of the current passable stat line, right? And if we did have a format introduced like this, I could see there actually being value in some of those cards in the set, right?
Right. And I mean, even if you did that and had the Luffy, like, because I think in Japan they might be trying to make that a competitive format. I think that's the only way you could, is if you had that leader. And also, you're both starting at 4 life. You could, do a best 2 or 3 if you're at 4 life, because you're not, because you don't have as grindy as cards, you're mostly playing just vanillas and stuff like that. If you did a sealed best 2 of 3 with the Luffy leader, I think it would be solid. And like, yeah, you could even have. I would play if there was a best of 3 with the Luffy leader sealed regional. I'd 100% go play that.
Let's be real. If there's any kind of best of 3 format available, that's immediately just insanely attractive if you're a competitive person.
Right. Or if they're gonna stick with best of 1, give us some kind of side decking. I know Flesh and Blood, the way they do it is you reveal your leader in that game and then use sideboard because it is a best of one game, and I feel like that helps with a lot of that, like, oh, it's Whitebeard, I'm just, or it's this rogue deck I'm just gonna lose to. One, it makes your deck better, and it adds a level of complexity for competitive gameplay, since we are not able to do best of 2 or best of 3, which I don't know. Give us best of 3. It originally was supposed to be best of 3. I remember I played in one of the battle theme tournaments. It was a webcam tournament, and it was like you could only use cards from the Super Pre-release. I played in the first one. It was supposed to be best 2 of 3, right? I played round 1, best 2 of 3, got the game. I was on Kaido, dude was on Luffy, and then they tried to use the Bandai app to pair everything, and it crashed. So after an hour, they're like, okay, we're repairing, we're using a different tournament software, and it's best of 1 now, and we're throwing out round 1. Like, yeah, that was the start, and I was just like, I think I played one more game and I just dropped. I was like, no, this is not fun. Playing, yeah, it was terrible.
Damn, this is some new information to me. So basically, they were just blue ballsing us. They were just like telling us, like, okay, there's some competitive merits in this game. It's gonna be really nice, and it's got some awesome prize support. Okay, actually, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you.
Yeah, they're like, hey man, look, it's gonna be different over here. Actually, the app just crashed. Never mind, JK.
For sure. But since you have the most experience with like getting in contact with these new cards, let's go ahead and dive into our first impressions of what we think the impact this set will have on like the meta at competitive events.
Yeah, I mean, so there's a lot of good removal that came out in this set. Like we have Gum Gum Red Rock, and Blue has a lot of new tools, and I feel like we'll see grindier decks introduced to a format where it's just basically been very red and aggro dominant. And I'm hoping that it can slow the game down enough that there's more than just, pick your flavor of red. Because, like, red gets no support this set. Because the Alabasta stuff it's clunky, it's weird, it doesn't really function that well. It's too low to the ground, and VV just doesn't support that. It's like, if you just played an Alabasta package, like, what are you giving Rush? Like, just don't. Just stop that. But, like, I know Dofi, he doesn't even get, like, a lot of support, really, if you think about it. He's just the first time that green and purple have been combined. So people are like, oh, we can finally play all the film stuff to, like, its full potential. And that's what makes him good. You throw in a couple of SRs and stuff like that from the set, and that's a grindier deck. I'm really looking forward to playing Dofi because, like, I like green a lot, and I'm just tired of playing red. I know a lot of people are cooking with Queen. Yellow's been very popular. It's been a really strong color, and I definitely think yellow in set 3, yellow was a decent deck, but you ran a lot of cards that you had to run just because the pool was so limited. Like, now yellow has vanillas, and they're like, oh, thank God we have decent vanillas, Like, we're just going to run those so we just can have a better board. Because a lot of times, their board was just like 2K, a 0, maybe a 5, and then later the game would be an 8 and a 12, There's just no in between with yellow, but now it has that. So I think we'll definitely see a lot more yellow, and I think Whitebeard's just still going to be top dog, honestly. Like, I don't, like, he has 1 card banned and 3 restricted, and he's still just, kicking ass. I have to see it, to believe it, that he can be taken down, but I don't think it's going to happen unless they implement something.
That's a very interesting take because right now I'm thinking that Whitebeard, in my opinion, I would notch it down to A tier. And I would almost argue that if these restrictions were implemented to Japan when they were in OP-03, that Whitebeard would be A tier guaranteed, be a tier 2 deck at that point, because I know you mentioned how premium the removal is in this set. My biggest takeaway for the implications on the game is that there is so much increase on card quality of nice single target removal. We have the additions of Red Rock. We have there's quite a few cards in there. You got the Yellow Yamato. That's another key single target removal. And in general, I think that those additions to the game increase the matchup for these decks that can play those cards to beat Whitebeard. So for example, in set 2, Doflamingo was seen as a very good counter to Whitebeard. And, with these new additions to the deck, Red Rock is very effective versus a Whitebeard person. When you have 3,000 Swords and Red Rock, anytime you're going against Whitebeard and you trade 1-for-1 with their threat on the board, since most of the time they're only playing one body per turn, you're essentially accelerating the state of the game an additional turn while also removing their development. And against anyone else, that's not as insane. But if you can increase the game state, the guy has one less life now, and he wasn't able to pressure you because he doesn't have that body. And in general, I think the strength of Whitebeard before this set, and I mean still the strength of it, is not that it's overwhelmingly more powerful than every other leader in the game, or that the card quality is so high, but it has to do with the fact that if I want to build my deck to beat Whitebeard, I have to include certain cards that are specifically only really good versus Whitebeard. I use this example all the time, where if I'm playing Katakuri, it's very standard to include the 4-cost 6k vanilla, because if I'm going against Whitebeard, then I can actually attack them with a 0 Dawn investment, because you're basically using a completely different aspect of the game that no one has access to, when in general, that's actually really bad across the board. Because if you go against anyone else who's not 6,000 power, that card is too slow, and a lot of times can cost you the game. Let's say if you're going in Zoro, where you need a high priority to assemble threats on the board in the early game, or you're just going to get blown out. So the fact that previously you had to make a decision in your deck building that I either want to include these cards, which are going to do really well for me in this tournament if I go against a bunch of Whitebeard, or I'm going to disregard that matchup and I'm just going to build my deck to have the highest card quality possible across the board, that really favored Whitebeard, because I would argue that a lot of the competitive people, if you're not playing Whitebeard, probably assume that it's better to build your deck to have the highest card quality to beat everyone rather than beat Whitebeard. And that's the stance that I have, because what I've found from these competitive events is even if Whitebeard has the highest top cut conversion rate, I go against 4 to 5 unique decks per tournament run. And we talk about being in best of 1, how if you lose more than one match, I mean, to be fair here, if you lose the first match of the tournament, you're almost fucked out of being able to top anyway. And so you're taking a large risk to have these cards in your deck, specifically to beat Whitebeard. We can talk about Fiery Doll, which has seen, a lot of play in Zoro, in Ace, where that card is literally a blank card if you go against anyone who is not Whitebeard. And I'll give you an example. In the Tulsa Regional, where I went 7-2, I played against 0 Whitebeards the whole tournament. And I just built my deck to be the best possible card quality that's going to allow me to have the highest chance to play the game every time. Whereas if I included these cards like Fiery Doll in my deck, then I just have a dead card. I probably lose one of those matches, and I probably just get cucked from being able to top, and stuff like that. But if you build your deck to beat Whitebeard and you go against 5 Whitebeards, I mean, obviously that's broken. I just think at this point in the game, that's not correct to do, because even if Whitebeard's the best deck, it's not so much better than these other decks that people will stop playing these other strategies. Like I said, if you're playing OG Purple Kaido in set 1, because it's not that much worse than everything else, there's a chance that you just high roll and you just win out and top of that event. And I think that's why we've seen, somewhat success with yellow, because that's a thing you can do, right?
Yeah, I agree. And it's if you're building your deck to just beat one deck, that's a really bad competitive strategy to take into a tournament. I agree. Just because yeah, you could see it and awesome, good for you. But what are you gonna say you see 6 Whitebeards? What are you gonna do against the other 3 decks that you didn't like? What if you get clapped by an Ivankov, and then you gotta tell your homies, be like, well, I couldn't do nothing, man. Just they played stuff and it sucked.
Yeah, bro, he had double Ivankov
You know?
on curve. He was nutty, man. I couldn't do shit.
I wasn't expecting it. I forgot what those cards did, Like, and that's definitely, I think, where a lot of people get their mindset is just like, I have to go in and beat the best deck, And it's like, yeah, Whitebeard got a lot of tops in the top 8, but if you look at the field, like, a lot of the times it's like close to or not even half the field. So you really have to just be prepared against the field. Like, I played in the Tulsa Regional, I was prepared for Zoro Whitebeard, and I totally forgot to practice against Law. And like I beat one of the first Law players, but then there were 2 more that just like clapped my cheeks. Like one guy just dropped an 8-drop kid, and I was like, okay, I'm winning. But this full top deck, every little blocker, and was just like, blocker, blocker. I'm like, what the fuck, dude? I couldn't get through it, and it's frustrating, And I was like, well, shame on me for not even thinking about Law. And ever since then, I was like, all right, I'm gonna pick up Law just as a back burner because it's such like I feel like Law probably is the best deck in the game, and because just like it has no new cards, and if you look in Japan, it's still doing well with no new cards since OP-2. So it's always that sleeper that if you don't know how to play against it, you're gonna get clapped.
That's really true. It's one of the decks that has the higher skill cap. I think one of the reasons why people don't utilize it as much has to do with the fact that there's so many people who are like, bro, you need to have so many reps on this deck, man. You don't have enough time to pick this up. When if you have any actual card game experience, honestly, specifically if you come from Yu-Gi-Oh, or maybe you play Modern in Magic, then this deck is simpletons compared to that. It requires basically 2 to 3 weeks, and if you have a strong understanding of the game, you can effectively pilot every single deck in the game because it's not that complicated, which is not true for other TCGs. Now, what I will say, this is some information that I was thinking about just keeping to myself, but today we're giving out the goop. And what I was going to say is, my first impression of these new cards with this premium single target removal, if I'm going to a competitive event, Law fits into this category where I am not interested in bringing a deck that is going to play a go tall strategy because there is currently no removal for AoE effects. And I think that's why Law and Zoro are just separated from the pack, and that's why I would argue that Whitebeard is not the best deck to bring to an event, because now you have an opportunity to lose to these people who have a red rock, to lose to these people who have, I think in Rebecca there's some new single target removal stuff, if you're able to develop a guy and also remove their 4-cost guy they put on the board this turn, then now they're just set back another turn. They're going to have to waste another turn developing. Whereas if I'm playing Law, now you have so many dead cards in your deck. If I'm playing Zoro, you have so many dead cards in your deck. I mean, if I'm playing Zoro, you will never be able to use your red rock. Let's say you're playing 3 to 4 of those, all dead. Let's say you're playing 2 to 4 of the 3,000 swords. I mean, even in the best case scenario, I have one valuable target, which is my 5-cost Marco, where you're getting a 1 Dawn advantage. But you may not even be getting that, because if I got a +1 on play, then it could potentially just be an even exchange of value, And regardless, whether you're getting a one dawn advantage or an even exchange, that is not beneficial to the person who isn't playing Zoro. Because with the way that I built my Zoro deck, I always occupy the board at a higher rate than the other person. And so if I have 4 guys on the board and you do a 1-for-1 value trade, which stops you from developing the board that turn, I'm excited for that. That is not a beneficial exchange of value for you. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah. Like the crocodile deck that I'm the Blurple Croc. It plays really well into those go tall strategies because they're removal, but like go wide. That's why I have Miss Golden Week in there, just because like I can freeze a little dude and then it gives me a body to swing in later. So I've kind of built that deck to try to like there are definitely some like things to help against the go wide. I will say Zoro's probably better to play against Law just because like going wide with Zoro is so easy. You know, you're just like, oh, turn I'm going second. I go to Dan. The Dan grabs Izo or Nami. I play that, and then I play a buggy, and then it's just like I have 3 bodies on the field, you know, that are essentially 4Ks, and I didn't decrease my hand by any. Whereas Law is like you can whiff a lot of times with Law. You have to be able to, you have to have your deck built right and accept that like I think 1 out of 3 searchers is gonna whiff in Law. And I think that's just something that you have to accept, you know. Like build yeah. And with like Zoro, like if you just like golly, Dan, what does Dan not hit that grabs another card? And then if it depends on if like how you build Zoro, I feel like it just whiffs less than Law, just because Law your searchers are Dedan, which does not grab 1-drop green stuff, so it can't grab Bonnie. It can only grab Nami, and then there's Nami can't grab everything. So it's just your searchers are I would say your searchers are more important in Law, but they whiff more.
I completely agree.
Yeah.
Let me tell you something, Mike. When I started out this game and I started playing Blurple Croc and I started playing Blue Doflamingo and I went against the first person who had a Jewelry Bonnie, I immediately found out, wow, I'm going to try this out. Why would I play a deck that doesn't have Jewelry Bonnie? This is so broken that I have an infinite value searcher. I think you actually beat me one of the first times I actually played because you had a Jewelry Bonnie. And that just immediately, just put this thought in my mind. Why would I play a deck without Jewelry Bonnie? Go forward to set 3. I built this Zoro deck. I have 16 searchers. Once you play 16 searchers, you can't go back. It's just so hard for me to look at these new decks because, like, I have 16 searchers, and the opportunity cost is such a low risk investment because in my deck, I have a 58 to 60% chance to hit with my buggy, but if my buggy hits, you're just clapped. Like, you automatically lose. But if my buggy misses, I'm just like, okay, I still have one of the most unfair cards in the game because this is still just a 1-dawn investment to make you discard a card. And on top of that, the buggy single-handedly created a new notion in the game where attributes previously had no impact on the game at all. That was just like a fake word on the card. But now, if a card has the attribute slash, it's actually just like a detractor from the card. It's like if we're rating this card on a scale, out of 5, and we look at blocker law. Okay, that's a 5 out of 5. Okay, buggies in the game, that's a 4.5 now. You can get into so many situations where I have a double buggy, and the guy has blocker blah, his leader, he has a Dedan. He basically just can't out my shit because he also doesn't have Fire Fist, he doesn't have Marco, even Vista is Slash. So if you play that before my buggy, you're fucked, dude. And I just think it's so broken.
Oh yeah. I think if you're a Zoro player and you're playing against Law and they like try to swing in 3K and a 4 or 5 in beige, you save Buggy, dude. Because like you have to have a Vista to kill Buggy. Because you're not swinging into him. I'm gonna save him, and then you're just gonna be really frustrated that you lost to a 1-drop. Yeah, that whole ability is like it's wild. And there's a lot of decks, even like Kinemon, because I was playing that one time in locals. Yeah, it's all slash, and I was just like, dude, what do I do against this buggy? This is rough because like all greens removal is like swinging into the field, and unless you run X-Drake, which I feel like not enough people ran X Drake in their green decks. But onto the searchers, that's where I think why purple Dofi is going to shine, and that's why they run the film package, is because if you look at a lot of these multicolor decks, and I have been too because I've been like starting to cook. I usually don't try to deck build until like the set's out, just because it's more fun for me. Like I know I can play the sim, the cards are out and stuff like that, but I'm gonna get tired of the format fast, and I just don't want to do that. But the reason why Film Dofi is so good is because you have 8 searchers in a multicolor deck. You have Buena Vista and you have Nami, whereas like the other 2 color decks just don't have that. So I think that's why you saw that in Japan, like that Dofi doing good, is just because you had more searchers. And like Queen, I know a lot of people are like, oh, Queen's so good, blah, blah, blah. You don't have a searcher in Queen. Your searcher is Perona and the 3-drop blocker Dofi. Those are your searchers, essentially. Yeah, it's like a pseudo searcher, which is like feels worse. Like, oh, I'll see what I'll recover my life, but like if you need a dig for something in Queen, you just can't. You have to do it by card draw, and the deck doesn't do a lot of that. And like that's where a lot of these multicolor decks are going to struggle. It's just like, oh, I only have 0 to 4 searchers, and yeah, it's in a very searcher heavy meta where OP-03 was. It's like, yeah, that's gonna be the I think that's gonna be make or break for a lot of these new multicolor leaders, is how many searchers you can include. Unfortunately.
One of the points that I like to bring up when we talk about the competitive viability of 2-color decks that we've seen thus far at this point in the game, it kind of changes to a different pace in set 5. But from this current standpoint, all the way back to set 1, there's one deficiency that some people may overlook, and I brought this up before. The biggest drawback to playing a 2-color leader, a lot of people assume at first glance that it is only having one less life than the other person, when in reality, the main reason why Law has been the only 2-color leader up to this point that has seen competitive viability is because the disadvantage is not that you start with one less life, it's that you will see one less card per game than the other player because you are 4 life. And when you think about what Law does, you can return searchers back to hand that then allows you to replay them. So if I am able to play a searcher, then return the searcher to hand and replay it one time in the game with my Shambles ability, I have now overcome that disadvantage of seeing one less card per game. And to go even further on that, you have access to one of the few class of what I call an infinite value searcher versus a one-time searcher in the form of Jewelry Bonnie, where essentially if I can just protect the castle on my Bonnie, I am always going to beat you. Or if I return it to hand and you never get to interact with it, I'm just going to be keep getting so many +1s every turn to where you are not going to be able to come back. And I think, honestly, I would disagree with you a little bit about why the green-purple Dofi deck is so good. Yes, it does have access to an infinite value searcher in the form of Nami, but what I found is that my struggle with playing that deck at a big event is when you don't see key cards such as your 7-drop or your 3-drop Nami, those times when you don't see those cards are night and day. And I'm at a point in this game where I tend to not be interested or try to avoid decks that the entire game plan is focused around seeing specific cards. And, even going further with that, like the Law deck, I think it's broken when you have access to the 5-drop Law. But the games where you don't see that card at all, or you don't see it early enough, are night and day. And that's why I put Zoro slightly above it, because with the way that I built the deck, it doesn't matter what hand I open. My game plan is to put 5 3K characters on the board by turn 3, turn 4, and no matter what hand I open, no matter how many searchers hit or whiff, I am always going to be able to accomplish that. What I do think sets the green-purple Dofi deck apart from other 2-color leaders is the 10-drop Doflamingo. While that card is not searchable, that is currently the highest power interval 10 cost or late game bomb in the game. That is why yellow has seen success before, and that's why yellow isn't as consistent, because you're relying on seeing this one card, but when you have double Big Mom, the other guy can really not do anything. The 10 drop Dofi takes that an entire step further. When you have a 7 drop blocker and you used it to potentially play another blocker on the field, maybe you put an Uta, or you just had a blocker previously, then you play the 10 drop Dofi, you should not be able to stun people's leaders. That is the most bullshit thing in the current game. You know, previously we've seen the 9 cost Newgate is limited. That's not even that broken of a card. But then you have 4 Big Mom and now 4 Dofi. If I stun down your leader, that can just invalidate your entire game plan. If you're playing Doflamingo and I stun down your leader, well, now you're going to be playing with the sealed all color Luffy because you're not doing shit, bud. You literally have nothing to do, you know, and that's the story with a lot of these decks. You're not using your Katakuri leader effect. You're not using, I think, is Queen on attack? I'm pretty sure Queen's on attack.
Queen's on attack, yeah.
Sorry, you just don't get to play the game. Yeah, there's just so many like different decks where it's like, you just don't get to play the game, man. And that is just such an unfair card because I like to make this comparison to why certain bombs are so much better than others. And in general, when we look at set 1, the biggest example I can give is the 10 drop Kaido. A very strong card, the only form of AoE still currently available in the game. Well, typically with a big bomb in any card game, you're putting up a disadvantage by I'm establishing this high level threat. But because it required me to use all my resources that turn, I'm now sacrificing the ability to defend myself on the following turn. So for example, if I'm at 1 life, I probably do not have the agency to play my 10 cost Kaido, because now on my opponent's turn, if he is playing any deck that can encompass a rush character or a double attack effect, I automatically lose because I have no Dawn to establish a blocker. If I had a blocker, it is now removed from the game, and I cannot use Dawns to play an event. Well, with the 10 cost Dofi, we're just going to disregard that advantage. When you establish a 10 cost late bombs threat in this game, typically that is basically just putting your opponent on a clock to where they have to kill you within probably 2 turns or you automatically win the game. Because for most decks, if I have a 10,000 or 12,000 character, it's not worth it for me to justify putting up as many resources as it requires to answer that threat in order to potentially get the trade. If I go 2k above your 10,000, I might have just invested all my Dawn into one guy, and if you stop that, I just basically passed and gave you another turn. The 10 cost Dofi does not say that. He says fuck you, and if you're playing any deck that has an actual effect that requires attacking, fuck you too.
Yeah, I think 10 drop Dofi should just read take an extra turn. Because, like, a lot of the time, that's what it's going to do. And, like, I've found out, like, playing against Whitebeard, if you don't have 10 drop Dofi, just scoop. And so I will aggressively mulligan for 10 drop Dofi against Whitebeard. I'll try to establish Guild Testero early on, don't swing with it, and then I'm going to play my 10 drop Dofi. I'm going to freeze your shit, and I'm going to swing with this Testero, draw 2, and I hope one of those cards is another 10 drop Dofi, because we've played Whitebeard's game so long that it's time they play our game, and that's why I think, that's why that deck saw a lot of success. And another thing with the Dofi leader is a lot of people will read it and they're like, oh, you just unread 2 Dawn. It's like, that basically says you have 12 Dawn, is what that leader says, because you can utilize all the good counter cards now, which a lot of decks, you're just like, I want to play this, but I need to keep this up for defense. And like Dofi says is, I'm going to play this Time Walk, that's going to freeze your board. And then whatever swing you do have, I'm going to have at least 1 card to counter that. So it's pretty wild. I like the leader a lot. I think it's definitely the best out of the ones in the new set.
I would categorize it into a power creepy Vonkov. You know, a lot of people really underrate Ivankov, but ultimately, when you play any blue deck, when you go second, it's just like there's just a 50% chance you automatically lose. You know, if you get to curve out and you go Ivankov combo on turn 4 and you played first, you probably just win. And with the Film Dofi deck, that's very similar. Because if I go Film Luffy into a 4-drop, or if I go Film Luffy into 4 Brook, if I'm just high roll as fuck and play another guy, like I automatically take that game. Well, the thing is, if I go second, well, now I just have this 10 cost bomb. They just add to the polarization. Because you think about, okay, I play a 7 Dawn character that also plays 7 more worth of Dawn, which is what Ivankov did, but now I can also use an event. So that kind of just does what you're trying to accomplish with Ivankov better, because you're mitigating the disadvantage of going second, and it's just even more broken that you can go 10 cost Dofi, alright, you pass a turn, I also have an event. Like, that's just broken.
Also, one thing I've noticed too is like if you run Thunder Bagra and like they make you go first and you hit that out of your life, you're just like, oh, now I'm on my even curve and I'm gonna see my 10 drop like even sooner. There gonna be some crazy stuff that goes on with that. But like you said with Ivankov, I think anything blue is like totally viable in this meta now. Just because like the red with the introduction of Red Rock and 10 drop Kaido, like those are huge tempo swings. I mean, not obviously not against every deck, because like you've seen if you look at some of the Asian lists, like not all of them, all the blue decks run Red Rock, but I think they play a lot more aggressively over there, and definitely over here in the States we are very much more control oriented. Because if you look at their OP-1, it was a lot of Zoro. If you look at our OP-1, it was a lot of Kid. You know, it was almost like a different meta completely. So I think a lot more people are going to be playing just pure blue decks over here. Like, I would not be surprised if we saw a lot more Dofi. Like, we already see a lot more just like pure blue Dofi over here in general than we do in like Asia. Like, occasionally people will play it. But now that, you know, Dofi got those 2 cards, I think and I know a lot of people are like, oh, Croc's gonna be the blue deck. Like, I think both are gonna be like a lot more present over here for sure. Oh yeah, for sure, dude. Like dropping a 7 and then a 7, and then you try to play something and they have a turn where they just red rock whatever threat it is, and then they just have, you know, 3 swings on you.
For
It's
sure.
pretty good.
Let's kind of change pace here. What are your favorite cards from the set? Which ones are you most excited to play with?
I really like the Baroque's work stuff. That's more of like a fun thing. I think Miss Golden Week, like being able to freeze something and sometimes getting out of life is pretty cracked, and like a lot of people just won't expect it. But I'd say those are the fun cards. I'd say cards that I'm excited to play is a lot of the stuff in the Dofi decks, like the Spider Web is just, you know, it's a better Paradise Waterfall. Sugar's also a fantastic card, and it can really punish your opponent if they don't know how to play against it. And I would say that's it. The red looks like trash. I want to play with the Don Quixote cards, but not having that searcher is just like, all right, I'm not gonna fool with that. What about
Honestly,
you?
I think I'm in a similar position with you, but overall, my thoughts are that this is a relatively like low impact set on the metagame. I think the top contenders are still, you know, where they're going to be. Obviously, like blue and yellow are going to be a little bit better. I'm most interested to play with, you know, obviously the Baroque Works engine. In general, I also like the addition of the Animal Kingdom Pirates Searcher. I've been working on that with the deck, you know, because you can search the 10 cost Kaido. 10 cost Kaido is definitely something I'm very interested in because it's also just a clock you can put on the other person. I felt up until this point that the bombs in blue were relatively lower card quality than the other decks, being, you know, the 7 cost Doflamingo. Even the Soja King is just too fair, you know, like, and Mihawk is also relatively fair when, you know, that is a good card on paper, and then you compare it to every other deck in the game, which previously had an 8 cost or higher bomb. Yellow had, you know, multiple 8 cost or higher bombs on release. and you just can't interact with any of those things, it makes it a very fringe card that has lower applications. The 10 cost Kaido definitely makes that better, but even then, I'm still not that excited because I just feel like blue, you just still just want to go first. And it's really hard for me in a best of one metagame where I have to play a deck that goes first only. Like, I pretty much only resonate with decks that don't care about going first or second, and if we win die roll, we can just choose to disrupt the opponent's curve. I typically like to build my decks to be able to play the game if I lose the die roll, and if I win, even better. But there's no disadvantage, right? So Baroque works, I think definitely with this Croc list, blue-purple specifically. I don't think that purple-yellow has as much viability as blue-purple. In all honesty, I was excited to try it out, and then I just realized, why the fuck is this guy yellow? There's actually no cards that you want in the deck to be yellow. It has nothing to do with the leader. It has nothing to do with the purple cards. Like, there's actually just no benefits of this guy being yellow. I would argue that if he was any other color, he would also just be so much fucking better. Like, it doesn't even matter. It could be black. I feel like there's still just better things to do with that. It's just so bad, you know? And you're already for life. I think one fundamental thing that I have a problem with this set is that previously, since the game is so simplistic, the cards that are of highest value are the ones that are above the stat line quota. Something like 5-cost Marco. I think that if they want to continue going this direction with the game, that card should be banned. Because now we have Miss All Sunday, the 5-drop, which is a card I'm excited for, but I can only be so excited for because it's too fair. This card has a intriguing effect. It's not too insane, and it's like, okay, I'm fine with that. But the fact I'm paying 5 Dawn for a 5,000 power character, and it also has no counter, when we compare that to other 5-drops, such as 5-cost Marco, he has 2 effects that you could argue are both more powerful than Miss All Sunday's basically 1 effect. And it also has a 6,000 power stat line, and it also has a 1k counter. So he just has like 3 things that are overall better than your 5-drop. And realistically, these purple decks needed to have higher quality cards because they're way too fair compared to the other like top front runners. And so, I mean, I am excited for this Baroque Works package. I think that if I, figure out the deck before anyone else does because everyone's just throwing it in the garbage, and I think I'm on the right track, I could probably go like 7-2 at an event if I get good matchups. But in general, when you're building the decks that are from this new set, I've found that there are different ways you can play them, sure, but at the end of the day, you're sacrificing so much no matter which way you want to go. You could build the blue-purple deck in a lot of ways, but either you're sacrificing against the red decks or you're sacrificing against the more grindy decks. And in a meta that is relatively like open, where everybody can play a bunch of things, that's not what I want to see with a deck I'm bringing to an event. And like, I don't have to like win the event to be able to like justify bringing this just because I find it fun and new. And in other card games, I prefer to play rogue strategies to get the deck building advantage. I just don't think that's really what's happening here. And it's surprising to me that in set 5, red actually isn't even like the top dog anymore. But, we've seen in this set, red is still just way better than all the other cards these other decks got. And they got no support this set. And you think about, in this set, the only leader I think you can justify bringing to a large event is the green-purple Dofi. And is there like 6 leaders in this set? A relatively low impact on the game. And I would argue that if you're going to be planning out the game to have these sets released 3 months apart, which is a slow schedule compared to other top TCGs, we either need more sets or we need more power creep. I don't like power creep, but at the same time, I don't know how it makes them any money, because I see this set being the lowest value set over time compared to all these other sets. We just talked about how the value is depreciated on set 2, set 3, And realistically, this set has a very low value for the consumer. I'm excited for Red Rock, excited for the Baroque Works stuff. I mean, like you said, the green purple Doflamingo is going to be fun. But in general, I don't like to play decks that everyone's on. And I think one of the caveats I have with the game is that mirror matches are relatively not fun in most cases. And so it's hard to be like, a person who is, trying to play these new decks. Because even when we look at yellow, I really liked yellow in the beginning. And then you think about, okay, yeah, it is an RNG based deck. Well, we get this queen leader, but why would I play any other leader? Why would I use any of these cards besides Katakuri when the fundamental mechanic, I guess you would say, of yellow is to activate triggers in life. And there's only one leader that lets you manipulate the triggers. You could argue that, Big Mom does, but that's not even the same. I could get 3 to 4 leader abilities to look at my life and rearrange them to find these cards, before I get any value from these other leaders. So you think about, okay, I want to try out these new queen cards. Well, one good thing is the yellow cards, the Sanji and the Capone, they can go into any deck. But because it's just a trigger-based strategy, why would I use any other deck than Katakuri so it increases my deck? So my final point is I enjoyed yellow until I realized when you're in the mirror match, it's the most coin flippy thing you could do. There's already little skill expression going against anyone in general. And then how can I even think about taking this to a big tournament when, in my locals, in big locals I've been to, it seems like you have a couple of crowds of people. One of the biggest crowds is the people who don't play the game very often. And so those people, they can't win very much with decks that require you to put time into them. So they're like, okay, set 1 was purple. Now this set, it's yellow. Last set it was yellow. You have 10 to 15 people in a 20-person locals who are playing yellow. And you're like, okay, I really enjoy yellow. Well, fuck that. I'm not even playing the game. I might as well just go play slots because at least there's flashing lights. You know what I'm saying?
Right, yeah. It is a very linear deck, and you rely heavily on triggers. You're like, a lot of the games I've lost to yellow is just because they had cracked life. I'm like, yeah, good job, dude. You did the thing. It's a pretty helmet deck, and I've said that to a lot of yellow players here, and they did not like what I had to say about it. It's like, no, there's skill behind it. I was like, not much. Just the skill is, where do I want to put this in life? If you know the basics of the game, I get it. I think if you want to play yellow with something a little more skill, you play Big Mom, but still because then at least you can stack your life, and you can do more fun things. Like, I feel like 8-drop Katakuri in Big Mom has a lot more mileage because you want to put stuff in your life because you always want to keep your stuff refreshed. But yeah, to go back what you were saying on about this set, and now that you were saying all that, it does feel much more like a supplemental set because it's like blue gets some pieces, yellow gets some pieces, green gets this new leader that they can use a film package on. And there's only really one deck that comes out of this, and that's Rebecca. That's the only you buy it because you can buy just a couple of boxes and you can build Rebecca. You technically don't have to go back on any of the sets. And that's the only self-contained deck that comes out of this set, I feel like. And everything else is just, yeah, because we get that, and that's, people are definitely going to play Rebecca because it's all Dressrosa. 98% of the deck comes from this. Because if you look at a lot of Japanese lists, they'll play 2 Red Rocks, and then the other 2K counters are just 2K counters. They're Tashigis, Tsurus, just stuff like that.
Yeah, Rebecca is definitely interesting. I'm not saying it's bad. I just personally don't have any desire to play the deck. I don't think it's really that fun. It's kind of just I am a one-legged man, and Bandai just came over and they just subsidized me a free wheelchair because I can't attack. But now that's just one of the biggest disadvantages. The game is so simple. I need to attack to win the game. And it's okay, I have these cards that say I can, tap my leader, which is basically a free resource to do this. But then I am basically building my deck in hopes of drawing specific cards. Like, obviously, the stage is one of the most pivotal things to that deck. And sure, it's powerful in the aspect that there's no removal for stages. But if you don't see that early, it's just one of those things where it's like, okay, if I'm going to play a deck that's reliant on drawing specific cards, I would rather play Law. Because if you don't see your 5-cost Law early, some matchups, like let's say you go against yellow, you might still be able to pull that one out just because a bunch of wide blockers just kind of is advantageous against that strategy. Whereas the Rebecca deck, I think when you don't have the stage early, there's still not a lot of matchups where you're that advantageous, right?
Yeah, you're just kind of playing behind if you don't have it, you know. You're not playing optimally where like other decks are just like I slammed a vanilla, that was my optimal play. Oh, you didn't have that one stage you needed. That sucks, you know. Or like if you don't see your Kairos, like just scoop up, man. And I like the idea of, you know, multicolor leaders with 5 life, but not being able to attack, man. That is I feel like that's, you know, that's what keeps this game from being so grindy and long. It's just like, oh, my leader can attack. Like I always have an attack. And you take that away from me, I don't want to play that. Hats off to whoever people, you know, that Rebecca looks fun and it's definitely gonna have a presence, but I just don't it's not a deck you know, I'm not like jonesing to build it first and play it first. I'm like, I might play that 2 months into this meta, you know, or just play it to know how to play against it. But it's definitely not on my radar as like decks I want to
For
play.
sure. It's like, okay, you think that like these new decks are introducing like these new mechanics. I'm ready to experience these new mechanics. Like, okay, I'm ready to experience not being able to attack. This is so fun. There's like so many things I can do. I can like tap my leader on a card that's like lower power level than a red card that doesn't require me to tap a leader. Like, you know, that's fun. If I draw my stage on turn 1, I basically like start with my wheelchair at the beginning of the game. I don't have to crawl over to the table. This is cool.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like if they were gonna do leaders can attack, especially for Vivi, they should have just made her 6 power. Cause she's just like so bad. Not being able to attack, you're just like, oh, I still just swing 5 into you, and like you have to have a rusher. Like you have to have something in your hand that you can give rush. Yeah, people are like, oh, rush is so good. I'm like, yeah, it's fine when it's on a card, but I just don't know. Vivi looks bad, and it's like it had no presence in Japan.
Yeah, and you're also in red, so it's like, okay, I can gain rush on these cards, but I also have access to the best stat line cards in the game that already provide rush. So it's like a lot of the good cards, do I really want this to be having rush? Like I could just play my 3-cost Zoro, which, you know, is just a solid card. And I could use it on a leader who can actually attack. Like, why would I do that? You know? And I think one of the biggest problems I have with this deck is it's a combo-centric deck. And, you know, you think about, like, Law being the best combo-centric deck. Well, Law has access to 3 searchers. And the ability lets you recycle the searchers, and one of the searchers is infinite value. Well, this new combo deck, the combo where you can double attack with a Luffy, that's dope. But it also requires a lot of setup. You can't do it as soon as you can combo with Law, and you also have to draw specific cards. People will argue that you can use the leader ability to like search, but that also has constraints. Whereas the Law ability has no constraints, you know? So it's just not even like fair to put that in the same category.
I agree. I mean, it's definitely like they're both, you know, skill intensive decks, but I'd say Rebecca requires more skill with less payoff because it's like, yeah, doing the Luffy Red Rock or the Luffy, you know, 2K swing double is cool, but you have to fill up your trash to however many. When Law just has to play 5 1-drops and 4 1-drops, maybe a 2-drop, you know, like to get to their combo just requires so much less.
Exactly. So added with the addition of these new cards, what decks are in your arsenal that you will consider testing for upcoming events in this set?
Definitely purple green Dofi, just because I like green and I think the leader is really strong. It does have some problems, like it doesn't have a lot of great removal, so part of that is keeping me away from it in big events. Definitely, I think Law, and if Newgate gets untampered with, I'll probably try some like what is the Strawbeard builds. But I mean, other than that, I want to keep it relatively low. I usually like to keep my deck options low for choosing big events. So maybe something blue if somebody cracks that list, or if this Blurple Croc list does start cooking and does really well, I'll consider it. But I've only got 2 events that I'm going to this season. One of them is a webcam, and I don't know. It's just like, do I try and gamble on something like Dofi or Croc, or do I make the most of my time and play something like Zoro Law or Newgate that just, you know, have a resume already?
Completely fair. Personally, I think I'm kind of just considering,
Yeah.
like you said, Law and Zoro. Honestly, like since I just had so much success with the previous Zoro list, and I just don't really think like anything hinders the viability of it, even like pushing more towards that being like better in the metagame. My top front runner is Zoro. I would consider Law. It's just going to depend on like what the representation is, and also if the restrictions are lifted. I don't know if you think the restrictions will be lifted or
Yeah.
not, but if the restrictions are lifted, obviously like Whitebeard is just broken. Like there's no reason not to play Whitebeard. Do you think the restrictions will be lifted?
I don't know. I So the restrictions, I get their incentive. They wanted to make it where Newgate was not a tier 1 deck and Zoro, but I think it failed miserably at what they were trying to do with it. And I feel like if they really want to just get Newgate out of there, they would have to do one or two things. And that is restrict Izo or Nami to 1, or just ban the leader out. Right? Because like it's already just so strong. Like it has a card ban and 3 restricted, and it's still topping. Like there's a problem. Like no deck should be able to perform like that with like that much hindrance. Like it's just insane. And I hope the restrictions do get lifted. And I don't necessarily want the leader banned, but that would be awesome. But also, all that restriction did was just like cuck ace players. Like holy shit, dude. Like no one suffered more in OP3 than people that were trying to cook with ace. Cause like I was like, oh, I think I found an ace build, and then they were just like, yeah, go fuck yourself. Play Whitebeard if you want to play red or Zoro. And I was like, oh, okay, I guess cool. That something needs to be done, and I don't know exactly what that is. I don't know if it's banning the leader or restricting the searchers, but whatever they're doing now, just it's not working.
Are there any changes you would like to see implemented, such as like further restrictions on any other cards? Like not even just in that deck, but just in general?
I usually don't like restrictions because I feel like if you, and I'm not like, saying bad things about the developers, but like if you build a card game and you build sets and then you have cards that are restricted and like errataed, that means you messed up, as a game designer. Which I get, it's really hard to design a game. I'm not saying like, oh, they just did a bad job. It's just like I don't think any card developer ever wants to restrict a card or ban a card, because that's just admitting that they made something that was just too good and then it just made the game unfun, and they don't want to, and that's what they don't want to do as developers. But as far as restrictions, I think red, I would like to see one of their searchers just like restricted or banned just because they have so much. And but the whole thing is I don't know if that would even change that much in red. So I think if you're going to keep the restricted list, you keep the restricted list, and if you're going to unrestrict it, you just have to get rid of Whitebeard. And if they do, I would like to see that unrestricted, and maybe see Whitebeard banned. See what the meta would be like differently. But again, I just keep going back and forth in my mind. I'm like, is that a good practice to ban leaders? Because apparently in set 5, Newgate isn't a problem. It just goes away. So it's like, do you ban a leader for a set just because you don't want the meta to be stale? Or do you keep him, in the meta and make that meta suffer? And that's kind of what happened in OP-03. So I don't really want to see anything brand further other than like red searchers, just because they have too many.
I mean, we've talked about a lot today about how searchers are just so prevalent in any deck. Because it's best of one, the added value of searchers just increases exponentially, because you need to have as consistent of a deck as possible, because it is best of one, and you want to have the highest chance to not lose any games. Where if it was best 2 out of 3, decks that are reliant on a key card like Kaido, where like you need to draw the stage, are just going to be quite a bit better in general, because you have less variance, and chances are you're going to be able to see that card, and you're going to get to choose to go first or second, that stuff in general. And there's probably like a couple cards I would feel comfortable being banned. I'm not a fan of limits, because I just think limits make the game very sacky. Currently, because red is so dominant, if I have the one rad beam and you don't, and we're both playing a deck that can use it because it can be used in any deck, it's just really sacky, because I'm like, damn, I could have won, but you had this card, or I only beat you because I had this card, So in general, there are 3 things that I would be okay with. Number 1, I think that there is a strong argument that 5-cost Marco should just be banned for this set. I think that they didn't want to do that because they made these restrictions to make it to where they were able to sell their products. Because they don't release his sets as fast as other games, they have a big agency on doing these reprint waves of these packs. And that's why we didn't actually see hits that affected the game and made it more fun. Because they don't want to ban Newgate or affect the deck to make it unplayable, because set 2, they were just printing out the wazoo. And if it's like one of the best decks, people are going to buy it, and the products already have low value, so why would they do that from a business standpoint? I don't know why, but people just seem to think in any card game, like, oh my god, this company sucks. They just keep making these toxic ass ban lists. They're not making the game any better. It's like, well, no shit. They don't give a fuck about the game. They just want to sell to collectors, and in a lot of games, now it's just about doing online virtual card games that require them to have like less capital investments, because releasing these products are already like risky if it doesn't sell. So then you think about that, it's like, okay, they don't want to cripple this deck because they want to just sell boosters. They don't care about the competitiveness. And they've done certain things to demonstrate they don't care about the competitiveness of this game, being the removal of Top Cut, the fact that there's way more online events than any other game I've ever played or seen, and there are very few in-person events. I was surprised to hear you say that you're actually, like, you consider the amount of events near us, like, a lot. I was actually kind of demotivated and like wanted to take a break, and like I've also just been branching out into Magic, because this deck that I built that I felt like was the best deck in the room at that event, I only got to play it in one event in that entire set, because I don't want to play online, and there was no other event that was within like a reasonable 10-hour distance, where if I was playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Or Magic, I could go to a regional level event every weekend or every other weekend, and that is something that stops me from being like as competitive. But in general with these bans, I think Marco should be banned. He just makes a fundamental problem with the game, where his stat line is higher than everything else in that cost range. So if he wasn't in the game, it would make it to where 5-cost Missile Sunday would feel a lot less bad, and in general a lot of those cards. And I would also be fine with Dedan being banned, because when you already have more searchers than everybody else, and other color searchers are locked behind a specific leader or a mechanic, like let's say the blue buggy searcher, OP-03, everyone's like, yeah, blue just got a searcher, but the card quality is ass, and I can only use it in this one leader. Well, if I'm playing red, why do I just get to play Dedan, which is a generic search, add buggy, which is a generic search? Get it? If you play a Dedan into a buggy into a hit, that's almost just FTK in some matchups because you just got a +2 and everyone else has to work to get a +1. So I would be fine if the Dan was banned and also 5-cost Marco. And I don't think 4-cost Marco is even like that good when you don't have 5-cost Marco because you're diminishing the amount of playable Whitebeard Pirates cards that can go into decks outside of Whitebeard. So then in Zoro, you probably don't even play a Whitebeard Pirates package because why would you play this 4-cost Marco, which doesn't let you end the game any sooner when there aren't enough Whitebeard Pirates playables that go along with the game plan? I think that would just make the game so much better in general. And it's like, okay, they have this card in Whitebeard that's specific to Whitebeard. Well, that's completely fine. It also allows Ace to actually be playable because what you're missing in Ace is general sustainability. And one of the biggest things about balancing red is difficult is what I found from playing the Zoro deck is all of my 2Ks are playable on the field. And most times, I play them on the field, I don't keep them in hand. I play 4 Makino, 4 Brook, and that's it. I cut Jozu from the deck, I cut Otama, because why would I play a different deck when I can play a deck where all my 2Ks have an actual, like, purpose? Every card in my deck is playable. You compare that to other decks, if I want to play blue, never playing my 2Ks in the field. Black, never playing my 2Ks in the field. Every single other color, the disparity is just so huge, and I'm actually surprised that red isn't like still viable in OP-05. Is Zoro really like not viable?
No, Zoro is. Whitebeard, I haven't seen much of it. Honestly, what I'm seeing in OP5 is the purple Luffy, yellow Enel, some of the multicolor captains that we're getting, and then Zoro and Law. Like, they're still putting up results. Like, and I think that just goes back to what we've been saying is just like the amount of searchability that those two have, and like you can just carve your hands to what you want. It's just no wonder they're still doing good, you know? They're aggro decks that have really good like hand filtering.
I'm actually super surprised that Law and Zoro haven't been like hit to the ground because in most card games, they only want you to be able to play with this deck for a certain amount of time because, you know, we're seeing in set 5, people are just using set 2 cards and below in Law. And that's meaning that no one is buying product who is playing the best deck in the game or the second best deck in the game. And that's not good for the company. So I'm actually surprised that's not happening.
You should actually go look at the purple Luffy decks, dude. It's hilarious because it's like 10 new cards, and then the rest is like the Kaido structure deck.
I've seen the purple Luffy deck a little bit. I played like a couple games the other day playing the yellow deck, and the purple deck just seems insane. Like I am happy for that it's making purple viable, but if you're saying it doesn't use that many new cards, that does kind of suck.
It uses like a handful of them, but it's just like it's doing like Page Worn and ulti that can play her, and then 9-drop Kaido apparently is just like wrecking shit. Just because 9-drop Kaido is one of the best bombs, it's just in the worst color right now. Because like being able to pop something and then you have a 10k rush, like that's absurd. Because like most people's bombs, they drop it down, it does something, they can't swing with it. But like that Kaido can come down, pop something, and then it can swing into something else, you know? But there's just not a... Yeah. Like back in OP-01, dude, that card, I was more afraid of that than 10-drop Kaido.
Yeah, because you're not sacrificing anything from the board.
But no, you're just putting some Dawn back, and if you have Onigashima out, like, you'll get back there fast enough.
What is your opinion on the Ultimate Starter deck?
It's fine. I know that what they try to do is, like, their way of doing, like, mini sets is releasing a structure deck between sets. If you notice their pattern, they'll always release decks between sets. Like, the ulti deck, the new film deck is going to be released in Japan in, like, a month between, and then I don't know when the Zoro and the Sanji deck are being released, but that's how they try to supplement it. I think the 3 captains deck, it's okay. I don't know if I have too much of opinion on it, honestly.
I think it's a better step It's a better step in the right
Leaders are
direction.
cool.
Because overall, I've been dissatisfied with the starter decks just being generally duds.
Oh yeah, like the last two, the Yamato and the Luffy. Like I buy 2 of every deck just because like I have the master set, but like I I have 2 of those decks still in the boxes. Just because I'm like, you don't get a lot of cards to play out of them. But yeah, I can see what you're saying with the captain's deck is like that deck is juiced. Like you could buy that deck and go to locals and play with it and probably go X1, you know? Cuz it's got good stuff in it. It's got like Rush Soros and stuff. And I know you come from Yu-Gi-Oh where it's like I've heard a lot of people is like, yeah, you just buy 3 of those structure decks and you just slap them together and you can go X1.
Structure
So,
decks are generally ass in Yu-Gi-Oh, to be
I
honest.
mean,
They just like, well, the Japan ones are
oh
insane,
really?
but in Yu-Gi-Oh, like, I guess one of the most recent ones, like, they're usually like they can be tier two, but they could also just be complete ass. And what people are really looking for them is they might reprint a card that was like 20 or 30 bucks in the starter deck, but they're usually like way more frugal on
Mhm.
that in America. My thing is about these starter decks in One Piece is it feels bad to be pushing out so many structure decks or whatever you want to call them when the game is relatively low power level. You know, a lot of cards you're playing are based off of the stat line. And so when we get something like the yellow Yamato starter deck, it's very difficult to, I bet, just balance adding these new cards to the game without making them broken because you need to add quite a few cards that have an effect to actually like make them good. And now you've got to a point like I bring that example up because we just got the 5 cost 7K Big Mom Pirates type card in this new set, and that was one of the only reasons to buy the Yamato starter deck was so you had a curve filler in your current Katakuri deck, and now we actually get not even an equal replacement like Speed Jill and the other 4 cost 6K. We just get a better replacement because this one is searchable, and it really just diminishes the value you got. Like my friend that came to the pre-release with us, he bought a Yamato starter deck there, and I was like, bro, like why did you buy that? Because he doesn't know anything about the game. He just wanted to like build yellow, and I was like, dude, like I just feel bad because the only thing he's getting realistically is 2 copies or 4 copies of the Noburo Arrows, which is a potentially playable card, but it's not required in order for you to build the yellow deck. So in reality, you're basically getting potentially 0 to 5% value out of that starter deck. And it's actually priced a little bit higher than starter decks in other games. So that's just kind of sad.
Yeah, they honestly could have handed those 2 decks out as like demo decks, and people would have been like, "Okay, these are cool." You know, I have a bunch of these at home because they sit on the shelf at my shop. We'll sell them here and now, like people who want to just like try. I think they're fine if people just want to try out the game. But if you're a competitive player, just buy the singles you need from those decks. Or just buy them, keep them on your shelf if you want to have like just a master
I
set of
agree.
stuff.
Like the only thing they're doing right is making the boxes look like a manga volume. That's literally the only thing nice about those products. But you know, we even like the Black Luffy deck. You probably know more about this than me because you have a Marine hat on. Has anyone even discussed using any cards from that deck? Because I actually haven't even seen any videos or heard anyone talk about any of the cards in that deck. I don't even know really what comes in the deck besides the Shanks.
So I know people who are playing the yellow black Big Mom were using that Vivi in there because she was a 3-drop 1K blocker out of life. And also Lucci and I think some smoker decks, there's a Kobe in there that's a 4-drop 1K. And you can just rest him to pop a two cost or less. So what you can do with that is like it lets you use your Lucia leader without having to do any Dawn investment on anything. So you can just have him on the field, pop a blocker, and then get your double swing with Lucci. But that's it. That deck is pure garbage. Just absolutely. I trying to think if there's anything else in the decks. I know some people were trying to cook with the 9-drop Shanks, but it's just not good. I mean, maybe against Zoro, you're like, oh, it's good at like killing Zoro, but like you're dead if you're just like, but if you're not like, because Zoro's so fast, you know, it's like you're gonna swing into their bodies anyway if they're resting them, and it's like by the time you're playing the
Oh,
9-drop
I
shanks, you
know.
kill like
That's the
two
only reason I
things.
play
Good
Zoro.
job.
Fun fact, I actually hate Zoro. I don't find it fun at all. And the only reason I built the deck is because I found the meta to be relatively unfun if you're trying to be competitive. When if you go against a yellow person, I found that if the person gets a trigger out of their first or second life and it summons a 5k character, you almost just have like a 30% or to 50% chance for that person just steal the game right off of that one trigger. And the way I built the Zoro deck, I actually in a regional went against a guy where he summoned 3 5k characters in a row out of his first 3 life, and I still just beat him with 3 life available. And that's the only reason why I play this deck, because I'd rather lose to a person who had to think than a person who's just reading their cards for the first time.
Yeah, I mean, that's why people play. I don't know if anybody has fun playing Whitebeard. You know, like I yeah, that deck is so linear. It's so boring. There's like, it's not I don't feel like Whitebeard is a real reflection on your skill if you play it
Bro,
honestly.
hot take. Whitebeard players are the most like soulless like person that actually just like doesn't have fun at the game. Your average Whitebeard player is just like picking up their deck. Like I went against this guy and it was in like a side event I think, and he was like, I don't know if you know like the standard Yu-Gi-Oh player who has a spell grounds. He's like sitting there, he's going like this. I'm always that guy who's like, okay, and we're like, hey, what's up, man? Like, I'm like, okay, this guy plays this. I'm like, all right, good play, bro, good shit. And this guy's just like, pass. Well, he's just being silent
Oh
and
yeah,
just doing nothing, and he's acting like what he's doing is like really thought provoking. When in reality, he's just broken as fuck. Like he's not even doing anything. The game literally forces you to go for lethal on a specific turn or else you die. And your only game plan is to just discard a 2k counter anytime the other person attacks for 7 or less. And then you're like, hold on, let me do some math here. I'm like, okay. I'm gonna 9-cost Whitebeard here, okay? I'm like, okay, thank you for taking up 5 minutes of my time. You've had this card in your hand since turn 3. Why did this take you this long to think about this?
yeah. You could honestly just program an AI to play Whitebeard, and you'd have all the practice you ever need. The deck is
Bro,
so
the
automated.
average Whitebeard player is just the game at the state fair where you're going against the chicken who's playing checkers or chess, and he just has the food pop up on like the place where it's supposed to move. That's actually just Whitebeard. And also, I might be kind of an asshole, but Whitebeard
100%.
people are just the only people where I just think they're sus. Like if a person is cheating, I don't know why, but like 80% of the time the person who cheated was playing Whitebeard because it's just so easy to cheat. Like the guy's just sitting there shuffling his hand, and I'm like, okay, how many cards do you have in hand? He's like, 10. I'm like, okay. I was like, okay, that might be right. I mean, he should have a lot of cards in hand, right? I don't know. Like, I went against this one guy who, like, at the
Yeah.
regional, he just kept holding his hands, like, at the table level. And to be fair, he was short. Like, I don't think he was trying to be malicious, but there's just a lot of aspects of the deck that make it, like, more difficult to know if the guy is being sus or not. Like, he could legitimately just, like, forget to take a
Yeah.
life, or you, like, may not know, like, if he's taking a life, did he do that? It's just like so many different things you have to keep track of, especially online.
Oh yeah, and it's just like, why do I have to keep track of your shit, man? You're playing the deck. It's like, hey, you forgot to take a life. They're like, oh, okay. It's like, dude, I know that you didn't forget to take a life because that's the only deck you've been playing, you fucking robot. Like, I'm not gonna name names, but there is a skilled player in around this area, and then when OP-02 came out, that is all this fucker played. Is Whitebeard. Still is playing it to this day. I'm sure he's going to one of the regionals soon, and he's going to be still playing Whitebeard. It's like he only plays one deck. He finds out what deck is good and he just plays it. And I'm just like, dude, do you have no variety? Do you find any enjoyment in the game, or is it all just about winning? Like, is that what you need in your life? Then, good job. I guess you got that, but like like I said, you're playing the most like automated. Like the deck is just basically everybody's playing like, okay, I know the rules. Whitebeard is just like, well, here's the manual. Okay, I'll just do what this tells me to do.
Yes. No, it's
I don't
literally
know.
just like playing Katakuri, except it's easier to cheat. It's like playing the card that uses the most Dawn in your hand, and then if there's an opportunity to do like a Bandit Keith baggy sleeves, then you can also do that. Like, you're just hiding like some additional star chips, you know, in your sleeve so you can get to the next round. Because it's just like, it's so difficult to know, especially online, if the guy is actually like playing like truthfully, especially like I played against people who are on Whitebeard and they'll like hold their hand together and they'll pick up the life card at the same time, and I'm like, I honestly don't know, was this guy at this life total like or not? And also like I just don't know because he has 10 plus cards. It's way easier to like have an additional card when you have that many cards, right? And yeah, I want to go back to this one example because we're talking about OP-02 and a specific perpetrator. When I was at a regional, I think it was like the Illinois regional or something. First off, there was a guy who played one boat. And honestly, I don't even know who the name of that guy was, but he saw his one boat like 8 or 9 rounds of the 9-round tournament, and his deck was not built to have synergy with the boat. And I'm just like, okay, bro. And then he gets in the top cut, he doesn't see the boat, and he loses. And specifically, like against my homie, he triggered the boat in life on the first life. And I was just like, haha, you got fucked, buddy. I just thought that was funny.
We might be talking about
No, there was multiple people at that tournament who also just drew their boat every game.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Boat beard
boat.
was disgusting.
If you don't, then it's just ass. Like, let's be real. I never thought the boat beard deck was good.
Yeah.
If you topped in OP-02 with Boatbeard, I would say you had the same chances to top if you were playing fairly as playing an OP-01 Kaido in OP-01. Like, you could, but if you're topping multiple events and you're specifically playing Boatbeard, I would consider you, like, way more sus than a person who topped multiple events in a row playing any other deck, you know?
Yeah, I agree. I was just gonna say, I don't know if it's I'm more tired of Whitebeard or I'm more tired of Whitebeard players.
I was just thinking about that.
Dude, we've come to the conclusion that's the real problem. We just need to ban them.
So
And then the game will
we
be
need
fun.
to have a new rules implication. So anyone who is caught cheating, they can have a 4-month ban or whatever the ban is for whatever they did. But if the person is on Whitebeard and they get caught cheating, they get an additional extension of whatever the penalty is by 2 months. That is the only fair way, because then you're just decentralizing these people who are playing boat and they're just keep cheating over and over again with it. Like, it's just the easiest deck to cheat with, and it's also just like, even if the person isn't like cheating, you could easily like forget something. It's just a hard thing to keep track of. If I go against a guy who's a noob playing Whitebeard and I know he's not cheating, he's just a noob, it's still hard for me to keep track. Like, it's just not fun to play against a Whitebeard person, because you always know that even if you win, it just always comes down to, did this guy have 1k more counter to kill me? I feel like it always comes down to that, and it's always so stressful when you go against the guy and there's like high stakes, because it always comes down to that, it seems like.
Yeah, for sure. And also that Peoria regional you were mentioning, there were so many fucking rule sharks there. People were like, oh, you have to say 5 for the Dawn. And there were people like, yeah, I lost because I didn't target my leader with Whitebeard. I didn't declare that. It's just like, man, if that's what it takes for you, like, no wonder you're playing Whitebeard.
So true. I was playing my final round, and the guy that I lost to, he ended up going on to top 4. But the match happening next to me was like the instance of the guy getting the judge call on him for not announcing his Whitebeard effect. And I'm just like, bro, the one reason why I joined this community is because the game is so simple, it's so difficult to cheat. And that is the one way that you can actually like shark. And what I like to say about this game is, there are only like 2 to 3 reasons why you would ever call a judge. Number 1, if you're a noob, okay. If you're not a noob, then you're probably just an asshole and you're just sharking, or you're generally just not a fun person to play against. And what I'll say about those people is, anytime I go against a person like that, and it's like a high stakes situation, if the guy is just like being rude, or he's like just like trying to like cheat me, and it's just like evident, and like he's being extremely aggressive, I just tell him like, all right, man, I'm going to leave. You can win, but you just ruined the game for me. I'm gonna go do some cool guy shit, and you can go back to your basement while I interact with a female, okay? And I'm just like, I just don't want to play against you. Like, if you care about this that much, then you could probably make so much more money doing something else. So it's just sad.
Yeah. Yeah. It's those kind of people that like claim pets as dependents on their taxes.
I would like to like see maybe the prizing being like diminished a little bit, because Yu-Gi-Oh, it's like hyper competitive, but the prizing is also just terrible. And you know, like Magic, you know, you have some events that are like high pricing, but it's also more difficult to cheat in Magic, you know? And so it's like not all of those events are actually like worth something. What's nice about the pre-release is because it's not worth anything. It's actually just more like fun, and it really should be like that because it's a simple game.
Yeah.
You should not be calling the judge on someone, and if you do, I'm gonna identify you as a fucking bitch. And in that case, it's like, why are there so many people who are just being scalpers in the collector market and are just like, okay, I really need to win this $5,000 Luffy so I can make my rent for this 1 month. It's sad, and I think that would like decrease the amount of people who are doing that. Because you can't lie, there's a legit group of people who only play the game because there's a chance for them to like win something. And since it's a variance-based game, they, even if you have integrity, I would say it's like you can't plan on that, right? If you're playing Magic, I think it's fair to say if you're in the Magic Hall of Fame, you're a person that can actually be like consistently making a livable wage, and if you want to do that, cool. In this game, even if you are an honest and integral person, I don't think you can make enough money to do that. So the people who are like putting it on there, you know that guy, even if he doesn't cheat, he's willing to shark you, take you to time, do some shit to like make the win, because he's dependent on this, and he knows that there's too much variance to make it to where he can actually like win honestly.
I 100% agree. And you know, maybe taking the pricing down on One Piece would help just eliminate some of those people, because holy shit, dude, you can make out like a bandit. And that's why those online tournaments just fill up so fast and people just go, you know, 0-3 and drop, because they're like, I paid $30. I'm going to get this envelope that has this Dawn and this promo card, and I'm going to make like 100 to 150 bucks just off of like getting on Discord 3 times that day and saying GG, you know? Like, that's absurd. Like the money you can just make back on that. And it definitely keeps some spikes in the game, which
Exactly. We've kind of already touched on this, but how do you feel about like the state of like current competitive events? And like, how do you feel specifically about like the removing of Top Cut, the way that like events are structured, like how there's, you know, not really that many like in-person events? Like, what are your overall thoughts on that? Because for me personally, my biggest caveat right now is not only is there not enough in-person events, there's also just a disparity between regionals and treasure cups. Treasure cup is actually supposed to be a higher level event than regional, but you don't get an invite, and that's just something that really like irritates me, because previously, until we got these new announcements, I was only able to enter 2 regional events. Those are the ones that fill the fastest, and they also have the best entry pricing.
no, I think Treasure Cup, when you say Treasure Cup and regional, I think of the same thing. It's just Treasure Cup just doesn't give you an invite. So, and I'm a competitive player, why the fuck would I ever play in a Treasure Cup? You know? Like, I get winning a Luffy's cool, but you know, I'll just go play Scratchers or something, because we're this best of Warren. Like, there's no reason for that. I think so. I've come from Digimon, and that's the previous Bandai game, and I've seen them do a lot more things right in the right direction with One Piece. Especially like we have gotten more in-person regionals, and I don't know if that's a product of coming out of COVID and the restrictions are less and they can hold more tournaments than they could when Digimon, you know, was at its prime. But I would definitely like to see more in-person events. I think don't even have side events on Sunday if you're not going to do a top cut. Like in Tulsa Regional, dude, I just left. I was like, I'm not going to play side events. Like, that's dumb. Like, yeah, winning a chopper's cool and playing more. Like, I already didn't like OP-03 as a meta. And it's like, we were already so well into it. It's like, why would I play any more of this meta on another day? There's no top cut. There's no incentive for me to stay, other than like hang out with homies and play a bad format. So I think like going to first undefeated, that's just a webcam thing. Like, why are we instilling webcam practices in in-person regionals? Like, oh, well, we don't want to play till 9 o'clock. It's like, well, that's just the nature of the beast. Like, you signed up for that. Like, you signed up that this is going to be a very skill intensive, very long day. I'm going to be exhausted afterwards. And it's like, say you go X2 and if there was a top cut and you would have gotten to play 32, well, tomorrow you might have gotten your invite. But since there's no top cut, you're just fucked. You got a congratulations, Matt. You got no invite, and you lost that chance of getting an invite for doing well on the first day. So I think removing top cut is dumb. And if you're going to have side events on the next day, if you're going to do 2-day tournaments, have a top cut. If you're not going to have a top cut, don't do a 2-day event. Just run the side events on the side, as it's like, hey, we'll fire side events all day. As soon as you drop, come play side events. And like, I think a lot of people would enjoy that more. And, the tournament would not probably run as long too, because you'd have so many people. You'd have like a third of the field drop out on round 3 just to go play side events. There'd be people who are 3-0 like, I'd rather go play side events. So yeah, removal of top cut is just bad.
I completely agree.
Practice.
Honestly, that really desincentivized me to be competitive, and I'm at the point where I've kind of given up on trying to be like competitive in this game for that reason, because it's already detractor to trying to get specifically like top 8 or top 16 like at every event when you can't go to that many events. And also they're removing the top cut because this game has the only tiebreaker system I've ever seen that works this way. So for a lot of people who may not know this, in Yu-Gi-Oh! And Magic the Gathering, I don't know about Pokemon, but in a normal circumstance, the tiebreakers go based off of the win percentage of the people you lost to. And I can give you a specific example of the guy in this regional at Tulsa I played against. He was playing Film Kid in OP-03. And the guy beat me round 1. It was his first time playing at a big event, or he might have been his first time playing in a tournament in general. He literally didn't know what his cards did. Like, he tried to add the wrong card off of a search and stuff, and I genuinely don't think he was being malicious. He was just a noob who borrowed someone's deck. But this guy, he goes on to be like 7-0 or 8-0 in the event, and he was the only guy I lost to until late in the tournament. And basically, because I lost to that guy in round 1, it doesn't matter. So in this situation, I ended up being 7-2. And both of my losses, in that top cut range, that guy, he ended up specifically getting 9th. Well, I ended up getting knocked to 37th. And that just felt really bad for me because I felt like this was the only opportunity to actually theory craft and actually gain a deck building advantage over other people, because my biggest complaint competitively with the game, other than all these factors, is that people can just look at information from Japan and it's exactly the same, except these people are just making money off us dumb Americans by selling us guides and writing articles and shit. And since there's not that big of a card pool, there's only so much I can do. This set, I felt like I built the best deck in the room with a couple other people, and I've never seen anyone build the deck this way. Well, because I lost to that guy in round 1, that just completely screwed me. Because if we were in another card game, I would be seated entirely different within that tiebreaker bracket, because the 2 people I lost to were X1, and that would put me within, probably the top 16. But in this game, it goes off the average win rate of every other person you played against. So because 4 or 5 of the people I played against dropped out, that made my average opponent win rate 50%, even though the 2 people I lost to had some of the highest win percentages in the tournament. And if you're going to remove the top cut, that makes it even more punishing. Like, if I understood that that was the implications, I would have dropped out after round 1, because there's no reason for me to play that. I only want to top so that I can feel like what I did was, like, you know, worthwhile, spending all the time making the deck, you know, implementing these practices. And it's like, this is the only event within a drivable distance of us during this set. So the fact that I had the same record as another guy who got put in top 16, and I'm 37th, and I basically get nothing, that just really sucks. Because I don't care about the value of the mat or the value of the prizes, but number one, it's going to do a lot for my channel. It's going to do a lot for my reputation in the community, because this channel and my brand is based on competitiveness specifically, and that is just like something that people want to see, you know? Like, if you don't top, then it makes your information not coming from a figure of authority, in my opinion.
Yeah. No, you gotta, the rule of the One Piece content is you gotta top, and then you start a Patreon.
The lack of opportunities in this game to really, like, display your skill set is something I do have a problem with.
Yeah. Yeah, no, for sure. And I can't tell you, dude, how many people, it's like, as soon as they get their top, it's like, hey guys, I'm doing coaching on Patreon. It's like, damn, dude, like, how many people are subscribing to this? You know? It's like, coaching's cool. It's definitely not definitely think it's not a long-term thing. And maybe if the game gets bigger, but I don't know, with Bandai running it, I think we'll probably hit a cap as far as, like, people playing, just because that's how Bandai games are. This game, though, I definitely think it could be in the top 3 if they did things right. But
you really think
that's
so?
saying a lot for Bandai, you know. I think so. They'd have to change a lot of their practices. I mean, just like the number of people that have been playing the game and the number of people that love, like, the franchise of One Piece. This is the second, if you don't count Lorcana, because it's so new, this is the second biggest TCG IP next to Pokemon. Like,
who do you think they would knock out of the top 3? Who are they replacing?
So
Yu-Gi-Oh?
Yu-Gi-Oh always dances with number 3 in the US for sure. If you look at, I think it's ICV2, they do a lot of, like, statistics as far as sales and stuff like that. And, like, dude, I've seen Yu-Gi-Oh be knocked out by Keyforge. Like, it got it one quarter, it got knocked out. Yeah, so Yu-Gi-Oh's always in, like, it's the number 3 spot, but, you know, once in a while it will get knocked down to number 4 and people will freak out. I'm like, oh, it's a new game, blah 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 blah. But it still always comes back because there's a huge cult following to, you know, Yu-Gi-Oh. People who play Yu-Gi-Oh love that game, and I know specifically it's like the longest running legacy format game. And, you know, if you've invested a lot of time and money in that, it's just you kind of get buyer's remorse and you're like, I can't get out of this game. And I get that. So I think you just have that hardcore following that will just always keep it floating in the number 3 spot. Whereas, like, if you have something with an IP as big as One Piece, if you do the game right, and if you do a lot of things better than other card companies, competitive players will want to go play your game, you know, just because it's a good game. Like you said with Yu-Gi-Oh, the pricing for Yu-Gi-Oh is dog shit, right?
Wait, let me tell you this. So,
you know,
if you play in a regional that costs the same amount as a One Piece event, you get 5 packs from the newest set. And they actually increased the price on this. And in Yu-Gi-Oh, there is little to no value in these packs. And let's say you go 7-1, because they're usually 8 rounds with like 300 people. What you get if you get top 8 is a rubber playmat that can value anywhere from $50 to up to maybe like $120 at the high end. And if you get top 4, which there's no longer any top cut for whatever reason, at regionals anyway, then you get a deck box that is made out of leather, and it is always a face value of like $50. It's funny to say this because if you get top 64 in a One Piece event, which you could start playing within a month and just get top 64. I mean, hell, the guy that I played against round 1, it was his first fucking tournament, and he got 9th place. And if you get top 64, you're making more than the guy who wins the Yu-Gi-Oh regional.
Oh, dude, when I got 25th in PPG, I made $1,000 off my prizing. Yeah, cause like it was early. I was like, "Yo, who wants my little packet, finalist cards for 700?" And I just let it go. I was like, "Geez, no, that's ridiculous." And like I was saying, dude, if Bandai just would they're so close. They're so close to making this like such a good game. And like as far as competitive wise, like it's already a great game just as far as mechanics and stuff go. But like as a competitive
We
game,
can
I could
say that
definitely
there's a
see it
lot
in
of
the big three.
potential there. Because my problem with this notion is that
There
I
is.
just feel like the direction that they've been taking the game so far is they obviously are looking at other game companies. And if you look at what Magic and Yu-Gi-Oh are doing, they're kind of going more focused on dropping the competitive side, not supporting events as much. And same thing with Pokemon, and more so focusing the collectors markets and focusing the online virtual games because it costs them less money and makes them more. And the reason they're able to do that is because you noted, Magic and Yu-Gi-Oh, they have a cult following and people are reluctant to get out. We say in Yu-Gi-Oh, you never quit, you just take a break. And in this game, it feels like they don't have the agency to be going away from dropping the competitive scene, but it seems like they are. Everything that I'm noticing, it's really just like making people stray away from competitiveness. Like, I mean, I feel like I'm one of the most competitively driven people, and I'm just not like that excited. Like, if I can go to an event within a reasonable distance, okay, cool. But if I lose, like, I don't really care. Whereas, like, if I was playing like a big event in Yu-Gi-Oh or Magic where I prepared like a long time for, then I would be like more stressed out. And because this game, I just know that I can't just win by building the best deck. Time and time again in Yu-Gi-Oh, because there's so many cards, I've created a deck building advantage between me and my opponents. And if you're in the right circle, you can just automatically go 7 wins by just having a deck. I have a friend, his name is Luke, and he's one of the top people in the nation. He's like good friends with the guy who won Worlds from the USA for the first time ever. And one time he built me a deck at a regional. I was testing with him, and he said, "Oh yeah, your deck's garbage. Play this deck." I played the deck. I start off the regional 7-0. I've never I've topped a lot, but I've never started off 7-0. And it was just so apparent how much more broken my deck was from other people. And I don't think you can do that in this game. And they're just adding a lot of barriers to where there are not a lot of outlets to express skill. And so going to the Patreon thing, there's really no reason for you to buy a Patreon for someone unless you actually just fuck with that person and you just want to give them money. Because I don't think that it's fair to like say you're going to get a lot of value out of that unless you're a complete noob and you have a really good job, which most people who play card games do not have a good job, and you just want to get a head start. That's completely fine, but other than that, there is a ceiling in this game. And a lot of people are going to tell me in the comments, the ceiling is so high, there's so many levels of skill. Bitch, I just double big bombed your ass. Sit down. There's not that much skill in the game. Like, yeah, there is some skill, but you can be knocked out. And I don't see them doing anything to support these events. We've actually seen that they've been shortening the entry pricing on some of these events, and there's no commitment to creating a bunch more in-person events. My biggest problem with the structure of the big in-person events is they're only allowing these 4 tournament organizers to run them, and that really screws over the community. We had a big community in Tulsa who has had experience running 300 to 500 person events for Yu-Gi-Oh in the past, and we're just going to let this company from out of state hold the regional within the same 15-mile radius of this business. How does that make any sense?
It doesn't. And I'm gonna say this, man. I'm gonna put some people on blast. Play TCG is ass, dude. Bandai should not let them run tournaments. Like they are just dog shit, dude. You didn't go to the Arlington one, did you? Oh, dude, that was yeah, dude, that was a disorganized fuck. Oh my god, dude. I was so pissed with that event. We had a concession break, right? I was 4-0 before that fucking concession break, right? They do a 45-minute concession break, and then they were like, we're adding another 15 minutes because the concession break was like not a lot of people were able to get food, right? This was the first one, right? I proceed to go, I lose another, I think I lose one more I lose another match, right? And then I beat my other two opponents, right? And then later in the day, it's like 5 o'clock, and they're like, we're having a second concession break. Yeah, we had 2 breaks. I was like, dude, let's just keep going. And like, I don't know. I don't want to say that killed my momentum, but fuck, dude. Then I lost 2 more matches after that one. So I ended up going X3. And I was just, oh, dude, I was so pissed because like the day we added 2 extra hours so people could go eat concession food. Like that's 2 more. If we would have cut those out, dude, and I would have skipped lunch, and I could have gone and had a big hearty dinner instead of, a fucking sad hot dog that's been wrapped in tinfoil that's been rotating forever and a fucking $6 Coke. The side events, dude, it was just like get in line. And like the line, they didn't let people sign up the day before. You had to get there and sign up. And I think we got there 2 hours later, and we just we played Line Simulator, which was the worst experience. So, and just other experiences I've had with Play TCG, I dealt with them in Digimon, dude. They just suck. They're the ones handling all the ones like around us, unfortunately.
I'm gonna add to the blasting because, I mean, no disrespect to the people who are good. Obviously, there's some good people there, but they just did the most like corrupt, like bullshit, and
Right.
like, they may send the fucking informants after me. I may be seeing the Pinkertons show up to my house to beat me up, or I just get a lifetime ban. But originally at that event, you had to sign up like 3 months in advance before the game even came out to be a part. Well, so I had a confirmed way to go to Las Vegas. And I canceled the reservations because the head coordinator of the event center said that I would be able to get into the event. And because of that, I lost basically almost $1,000 on the reparations I made going to Las Vegas because this person said that we could come play. And the reason I was willing to do that is because I had friends who would be able to go to that event and not this other one. So we go down there, and essentially the guy is like, oh yeah, no, that person has no authority. You can't do that. And I'm like, okay, well, why did you tell me this? After I bought a hotel here, I lost all this money, I did all this stuff. And so we're talking to the guy. The other guy who was a part of that, my friend Pete from Texas, he talked to the head guy, and he showed him the messages that we had with the convention center organizer, like the head of that event center. And he was like, okay, we'll let you in. We'll make this exception. And I was the other person who was in that conversation. And the guy doesn't let me in. He said, all right, we're filled up. Then he charges everyone in my group $30 to enter and just be a watcher, to not be able to play in anything, gives us no entry pricing, and we go inside. Over 100 people did not show up. So there's 100 open tables, literally, and they let my friend play, who was in the same situation as me, but said I couldn't play. Then my friend Pete argues with the head guy. He's like, hey, can you at least give him his entry pricing? He's like, okay, sure. But the other guy that came with me, who was in the same situation, we go tell him that we just got our stuff, and we try to go back up there, talk to the same guy. He tells my homie that, oh yeah, I can't give you the entry pricing, but if you want to, I will sell you event packs for $50 each. And he's literally doing some illegal shit. Like, literally has like a box that's like 6 feet tall, filled with event packs, and is trying to charge someone $50 an event pack when we already paid $30 to get inside and get nothing. And so that was my experience with the company, and for that, I do not respect them.
Yeah, I bet that dude would play Whitebeard.
He probably just didn't enjoy the games at all.
Oh yeah, probably not. It's probably just it's a money thing for him, which I get. But dude, yeah, They're not my favorite tournament organizer, and they should definitely open it up to more people.
Talk about the fact that one of the 4 tournament organizers is literally located in Canada. And we're talking about, oh yeah, a lot of people couldn't get into these online events. Like, I mean, I don't really care about that because I don't like online events, but they're like, you're supposed to be within this region. How am I allowed to enter an event in a different country and the people in that country can enter our events when the tournaments are a 500 person cap? You don't think there's 500 people in Canada who want to play the game? Is the market that small? Like, that's just gatekeeping as fuck. Like, so then there's only 3 tournament organizers in the US. Like, realistically, even if those organizers are doing their best, how many tournaments can they even do? Like, that's why I'm saying I just don't think that they care about the competitiveness of the game. They're trying to cater to these collector markets, but the foundation of a elongated sense of attachment to the game is not there. And you see that with a lot of people leaving. Sure, that's not as much of an issue right now because you still have a lot of new people entering the game, which is not the case for other top TCGs. But eventually, if they don't change the way things are going, that's not going to be the case.
Yeah, I 100% agree. It's not good practices. They started off doing good practices, and they're just kind of getting lazy, And maybe it's like you said, it's just because it's 3 organizers, and it's just like how many One Piece tournaments can you do when you also have to do Battle Spirits, Digimon? I think they still do Dragon Ball. Like,
how am I supposed to believe in this company when this company has just liquidated several other companies underneath them and just bought out different partners? Like, what am I supposed to do with that,
Yeah. Bandai needs to wake up and like realize that they have like 2 really good TCGs and just like quit fucking around with all this Battle Spirits, dude. Have you seen how much boxes are for that shit, dude? Oh, dude, the game, yeah, the bead mechanic's stupid because like they said they had online tournaments for that game, and you know how many people could just like grab 3 beads with one hand and be like, "There's my bead per turn," like. Fuck that, dude. No, boxes for first and second set are $28 on TCG Player. Yeah, dude. That means, and usually distro prices, it's about $55 a box for Bandai games. So that means people who are like, who are selling it for that, is they're taking like a $30 cut, just to get that shit off their shelves. Like, if that speaks anything, like, yeah. Good luck with that practice. You're gonna chase off everybody if you make another fucking Battle Spirits.
From what I understand is you weren't allowed to get on the OP-01 wave unless you already pre-ordered several months in advance, right? And so you got a lot of stores who, if you know anything about card games in general, Magic the Gathering has basically screwed over all local game stores by the parent company Hasbro selling all of these boxes to Amazon at a lower price than your distributor is. And if you want to run tournaments and get promos, you got to buy a certain amount of boxes. So imagine you didn't meet the cutoff date to order for One Piece, but they're saying, oh, there's a new game, Battle Spirits Saga. It's going to make up for all the money you lost on Magic, Yu-Gi-Oh! And Pokemon. And then you just lost 80% of the money that you paid for. That must feel so bad. That probably puts people out of business.
Oh, yeah. And I'm sure there's people who are like, I'll never fuck with another Bandai game again because of Battle Spirits. And there's a joke, too. A lot of stores around like here are like, well, how do you get, because there's different tiers for Bandai. There's like bronze, silver, gold. And a lot of them are like, well, how do you become a gold store? It's like, oh, you had to run DBS like 5 years ago. That's how you become a gold store. Like, their whole program is so vague and it just doesn't, it's not set out. And yeah, for One Piece, I remember there was a lot of stores who wanted to get on One Piece when they saw OP-1 come out, and they couldn't get stuff till OP-3. And if they waited long enough, it's like, I bet they're just getting the product that they ordered when they saw OP-1 doing so well, So like, as a store, that's, you're making a 6-month investment, you have to be, that's crazy. When like Magic sets, it's like a month before the set comes out, they're like, how much do you want to order? Whereas like Bandai is like, how much stuff would you like 6 months from now when you forget about it? to show up at your doorstep.
What is the difference between the gold, silver, and the bronze tier, and like how you get there? Because I was trying to explain this to a person who was going to be opening a store soon, and they were like, I thought I wasn't limited about how much I can buy. I thought that just has to do with my distributor.
So I know a little bit about it. So gold stores, so y'all have two in Tulsa, which is, I know, really nice. You're basically, bronze is you get a little bit of product and you can run very low events. And how you get there is basically you talk to your distributor, you send pictures of your store, and you have to, show that you have an actual store. You're not just a storefront. It's like some guy selling boxes in his fucking garage. And, once you get that and they see enough that you're running events, you have to tell them that you are running the events. They'll look at the records and then they'll upgrade you to silver. And like, good luck getting to gold, because like the store I work at has been running since DBS and we're still silver. Like, I don't know how the fuck you are supposed to get to gold. I think you just have to be really good with your reps and just like have super high numbers, because they like seeing those numbers. They like you using that terrible app system that they have, and that's part of it. So you kind of have to be in bed with Bandai for a while for them to treat you good. It's a very bad relationship for a lot of stores. I know a lot of people, when Digimon was coming out, stores were like, no, I'm not fucking with Digimon because they already screwed me over with DBS. Like, that's just a no-go. I don't know if that answers your question in full, because I don't know all the logistics that go into it. I just know enough that Bandai's not the best.
I mean, I think that's some great insight for a lot of people who don't know enough about it. Because, like I was saying, this guy was trying to tell me, yeah, like I thought that Bandai had no like way to stop me from ordering as much product as I want. I thought I could just order however much I want. And I heard from like people who worked at stores that wasn't correct. And I don't think a lot of people understand that. And so that's very interesting to hear, because you think about this game, one of the biggest selling points is the barrier to entry is really, really low as a player. Come to find out, the barrier to entry as a store owner is very, very high.
Yeah, it's the opposite. And like, if you somehow are a gold store, they treat you really well. But if you are a bronze store and you're like, hey, I would like to order, 20 boxes, they'll be like, okay, you'll get 2. So they definitely, your allocation is weighed on like how your store is. Yeah, because they're like, cool. I mean, and it kind of makes sense through like if you just look at it purely as like a business point of view, because it's like, well, you have these gold stores and they can move this product. I don't want to sell to this Joe Schmo who just heard about One Piece, who's got a card store in Yukon that just doesn't have the market there. When I can sell 100 boxes to this gold store, they're gonna move them. What if I sell 20 boxes to this Yukon store of One Piece, and then like, 6 people show up, and all those guys, they don't have the income to afford all those boxes, so they just kind of sit on the shelf, and then they order less and less. So I mean, it kind of makes sense. It's not like the best practice, it sounds like to players, but I mean, you kind of have to look at it through their point of view. Would you rather sell higher volumes to the store that can move higher volumes, or go with the underdog and believe in them?
My only thing is, like, obviously, like, I don't know as much information about it as you, but I just feel like it seems that the waiting period to either level up or to, like, get into the business relationship just seems way too long. Because as the store owner, you're taking a big risk by entering this contractual obligation with this person, because I'm pretty sure, like, at least in Magic, I know that if you're buying from the distributor, you're not allowed to buy from Amazon the boxes. Like, that's literally illegal, and they can like sue you, and they're selling them lower on Amazon. So that's why I feel like this is kind of like weird, that if I'm taking the risk as the store, well, now I don't even know if this is going to be the same level risk down the road when I even have the opportunity to open the venture, right?
Right. Yeah. And I mean, I see that side too. And the way that they're like, they don't really have a clear way of how it's leveled out. Like, like they don't have a program for people to show clearly, like, you're a bronze store, these are the numbers and the stuff that you need to become a silver store, and these are the numbers that you need and stuff like that to be a gold store. I don't know if they purposely do that so that people don't just try to manipulate the, like, oh, you need 100 people in attendance to become a gold store, a month. Well, I'll just make dummy accounts become a gold store status if this is laid out. I don't know if that's one of the reasons they don't do that, or if just because they're lazy.
To prevent resellers, from like you just opening this stuff and then just like reselling it to people, kind of undercutting other partners, because then that just lowers the interest of partners in general, I could see.
Right. And yeah, I don't know. I wish the program was more laid out, especially for new stores that did want to invest in Bandai products for TCG, because, you definitely don't want to get in business with someone's like, hey, can I buy your product? They're like, yeah, sure. It's like, well, how much can I order? They're like, we can do business. And it's like, well, you're not giving me a lot of information here, bud. It's just kind of sketchy.
I can almost make the comparison of opening a card store nowadays to opening a farm, because there's less and less farmers now every day, because the most of the people who are doing the farming are big corporation owned farms. Because if I take the risk to open it, there's obviously a lot of factors in terms of like how's the weather going to affect crops, is like my animals, like, are some of them going to get sick? There's all these risks and stuff. And as a new business owner, you're taking all the risks without like having really any like clear benefits that you're going to be able to keep this going long term. And with the way these corporations are headed, I have a similar feeling to Bandai. The bad stuff I said about like the turn order and all this stuff, the reality is I hate the corporation that holding it. I think the corporation itself, Bandai, is a piece of shit. Hasbro is a piece of shit. But the people that work there are good. And so that's all this stuff that we're talking about. I just wanted to make that clear for anybody thinking I'm just like, fuck this guy, fuck that guy.
No, yeah, you're never mad at the people. It's always the entity of that corporate. And it's just like, it's the people who run it, but the people who are working it, it's their job. And I'm sure some of them are trying to do their best. There's not, I'm sure there's people at Bandai who are like, dude, we really need to do this. This would make the tournament seem better. Sure, there's advocates and stuff like that.
Always that guy at the R&D department who's like, dude, like, this card is so cool and interactive. I just made such a groundbreaking development of the game. And then you got the higher ups like, okay, we can print this as a secret rare short print, 1 per case. And the guy's like, no, you're ruining the game. And he's like, ha ha ha, it'll help our investors make money.
Yeah, it's like, what if we made that a participation for going to a regional? It's like, what? Yeah. You need 4 of them, don't you? Well, yeah, it'd make your deck really good. Randomize it. Put it in a pack with 5 other bullshit cards.
That's a whole nother topic, but we're almost at about 3 hours. So do you have anything else that you're looking forward to in the game, or what you're most excited about?
Dude, I'm excited that I'm not grinding for an invite anymore, and if I want to go to Nats, I can just pay for it, and now I can just have fun with the game. So that definitely is a whole new. I'm looking at the game through a whole new light. Is that point of view? So like, oh, I can have fun again instead of just trying so hard to be competitive, and it's just a lot of weight off of my shoulders. And I think I'm more excited about the game more than ever, even though like we've said all this stuff about how the practices are with Bandai's and the big tournaments. Is like, I just like enjoy going to the locals and playing with the homies and having fun with the game and theory crafting. So I feel like I'll get to do that more. So that thought's really enticing to me.
Actually, something I wanted to get into, but we've already been running so long. But in terms of all the negatives that Bandai has done and the game has done, we're going to go ahead and tally up one positive for the One Piece card game, which is the removing of invites at nationals. Because for a lot of people who are competitive, the only reason why you're competitive is because I'm putting all this time into the game, into this hobby, and I just want to be competitive enough to qualify for the nationals so I can take a end of the year trip with all of my friends I've met in the game. And the system of being only available to get invites at regionals and not treasure cups, when there are way fewer regionals than there are treasure cups, was really gatekeeping a lot of people. You know, there are people specifically I know who have won treasure cups. Getting first place at a treasure cup is a horrendously difficult thing to do, and did not have their invite because they didn't get the opportunity to play in those. So I'm super excited about that. A little bit dissatisfied that it's in Los Angeles. I'm from Los Angeles and I hate Los Angeles. They've run that place to the ground, but I mean, I don't know. It'll still be fun. Hoping to get to go there, but I'm also hoping, you know, all the best that some of these things get implemented, and maybe the higher ups will listen to me rant, and hopefully I don't get banned for all the things that I've said. But that's all I have for today. Definitely gonna have to continue this conversation on another note, because I think we've got a lot of good things here. You want to go ahead and plug your stuff one more time before we end this?
Yeah, so go over to It's Loading TCG on YouTube. I do gameplay commentary. Like I said, I'm more excited for the game now than ever. I really took a break in OP-03 because it was boring, but I'm going to provide a lot more One Piece content over there. I'm planning some new stuff, trying some new things with the channel, so look forward to all that coming on there, and yeah.
Guys, make sure to go over to his channel and press subscribe, because we're giving out the value like nobody else. And if you made it this far in the video, be a real one, hit the subscribe. He's the only guy with the cool marine hat, and if you don't fuck with him, I don't fuck with you. And as always, if it's not the goo, it's got to go. Peace.
Ooh, is that indigo?